The girl quickly kisses the man sitting opposite her, and he asks her why she did it if he said it was better for them to forget everything. She says she used magic to change her appearance and thus forget about her past. From Letizia Violet, it was quite ironic that what attracted her to the boy was precisely because he was fed up with his life. She recalls out loud that her husband left her for another girl. She says quietly that they shouldn't dwell on the past. The girl didn't understand how this happened, but one thing she knew for sure. In fact, she liked the feeling of the boy hugging her. Astor, sitting opposite his wife, abruptly suggests they get a divorce. The girl realizes that this is a very bad taste joke on their wedding anniversary, but he informs her that he has found true love. Letitia nervously asks him how he can say that, and he wonders if she really wants to argue about this again. She accepts. She points out how much money she spent to help him, and he reveals that he has already paid the debt. The girl states that it's not a matter of debt, but that he should be grateful. Astor asks her not to talk about what she doesn't understand if he has already paid the full amount of his investment. He angrily complains that, even if not on time, he did it. Letitia recalls that the boy was absolutely always like this. Again, he tried to downplay it, as if he were not guilty of anything. The girl says it was because he didn't pay on time that her family fell. She asks him how he can say that, when her father was forced to make a very difficult decision because of him. Money doesn't matter in an aristocratic society, but if you lose honor and status, everything ends. Letitia's father, the head of the Violet family, went bankrupt because he didn't pay a debt on time, which is why he decided to commit suicide to take care of the debt. Her father gave that money to Astor only because he was the husband of his beloved daughter. Suddenly, the girl asks the person sitting across from him if he wants to marry his new girlfriend. He looks at her inquisitively, and Letitia asks him if he really thought she wouldn't understand. The girl says that if this wasn't what he wanted, he wouldn't have asked for a divorce in the first place. Suddenly, Astor interrupts her and informs her that he no longer wants to waste time with her, after which he suggests discussing monetary compensation. Suddenly, she screams and tells him to stop talking about money. Letitia asks what good it is to her if they don't give her father back. She decides to tell him all the bad things he did to her, but the boy abruptly slaps her. She angrily asks why he keeps mentioning this. He says that everything is in the past, and that even his father would be tired of hearing about it every time. The boy states that this is why he is so tired of her. He tells her he doesn't care how emotional she is, and he won't let her treat him like this. Astor adds later that their marriage only suffocates him. He says he feels like debt collectors are harassing him every day. The boy always got angry when he saw her look of self-pity on her face. Slowly removing her wedding ring, he tells her he doesn't care if she thinks he is the worst person in the world. Astor places the ring on a nearby table and states that they are getting a divorce. He says he also wants to be happy and have a normal family with his girlfriend. The boy slowly turns, preparing to leave and add something to his words. Letizia, lowering her head, asks him what else he wants to say. Unexpectedly for the girl, Astor announces that he wants a child. The boy really wanted a small copy of himself. Despite his wish, the girl could not give it to him. Letizia, sitting in the courtyard, tries to rethink her ex-husband's words. She remembered that Astor knew very well that she could not have children, because when she was little he pushed her down the stairs. That day, without thinking twice, he suddenly pushed her. After a while, he came to her room to apologize. Letitia told him that everything was fine, and she knew he didn't do it on purpose. He promised the girl to marry her, which surprised her greatly. Astor asked her to allow him to marry her, so he could be indebted to her for the rest of his life. That day, he really swore to marry her. He promised that he would always be there for the girl. As a result, Astor, blushing and feeling the spark in his eyes light up, proposes marriage to another girl after so long. Letitia couldn't understand how he could do this to her. Suddenly, a woman approaches the girl, interrupting her sad thoughts. It was her mother-in-law asking if they had spoken to Astor yet. Letitia tries to tell her everything, but the woman interrupts her and tells her she already knows everything. Suddenly, her mother-in-law tells her it's her fault for not taking care of herself, and the woman is very happy they are getting divorced. The woman sarcastically says she hopes to have a great life elsewhere. Suddenly, she adds that she doubts anyone would accept someone so defective. She asks her husband to also tell the girl something definitive. The man approaches Letitia and tells her he knows how much she tried to have a baby. He states bluntly that not everything turns out well, even if you try, and no matter how fast the chick runs, it won't fly with the adults. The woman tells her that her things have already been packed and loaded onto the carriage. She says that as a final favor to the girl, she called a carriage, so she doesn't care where she goes. Letitia, getting into the carriage, doesn't understand if all this is really happening. At the same time, she assumes that everyone seemed to be expecting their divorce. Seeing all her things, she realizes that this is not all, because when she arrived here she had many things. Suddenly, a huge amount of water falls on the girl's head. She looks up and sees Olivia, Aster's younger sister, standing in front of her. The girl standing above her pretends to ask if Letitia is okay. She says she didn't notice the one underneath, and then asks if the water is really cold. Olivia tells her not to worry, because she personally helped her pack her things. Suddenly, Letitia notices she is wearing a dress her mother gave her as a welcome gift. The girl denies her words and says that this dress always belonged to her. She says she would like to chat more, but she is a little busy. Olivia reveals that she needs to clean the bedroom for her new guest. Letitia doesn't understand how they can already be cleaning another girl's room. Suddenly, she runs into the building and asks if it will really end like this, but two guys try to stop her. The girl wonders if they will really do this to her, not believing what is happening. A short time ago, she was part of the family, but in the blink of an eye, suddenly everyone started treating her as if she never had been. The woman lists out loud everything they told her earlier about the divorce. Letitia stands in front of her stepmother, listening attentively. The girl, lowering her head sadly, apologizes to the woman for what happened. The stepmother says that after the head of the family left them, the least Aster could do was take care of the girl, because the head wanted to help his daughter's husband and invested in his business, which led him to a fatal decision. She remembered the times when he considered her a bad stepmother. Suddenly, the woman angrily asks her if she really dared to demand a divorce now. She points out that if it weren't for Aster, the girl's father wouldn't have died. The stepmother remembers that her sister died of illness, and then asks if Letitia should die too, if she is so useless. Suddenly, she severely orders the girls to leave her house. The woman asks why Letitia came here in the first place. The stepmother gets up from her chair and again, but in a loud tone, demands that the girl leave the house. The girl did not expect this to happen and now had nowhere to go. She considered herself a fool because she had lost her beloved man. Letitia slowly approaches the cliff, near which the river flows. The girl decides that it would be better if she threw herself into the river. Suddenly, someone behind her tells her that she is no longer alone. Aster is standing in front of her with his new girlfriend, Lyanka, who is already clinging to him with all her might. The boy looks sternly at the girl standing in front of her, expressing no remorse. He holds Lyanka's hand to help her down, as it was quite slippery. The girl, looking at him tenderly, thanked the person in front of her. Aster kisses her on the forehead and tells her she can do whatever she wants. Suddenly, a girl approaches Letitia and asks if she is all right. She covers her with a scarf and says it's quite cold today. Lyanka takes the hands of the woman opposite her and notices they are as cold as ice. The girl suggests taking a walk by the river because she would like to talk about something. Letitia pulls her hands away from the girls, refusing her offer. Lyanka looks at her hands in surprise, trying to understand what just happened. She looks pitifully at the woman in front of her and addresses her by name. The girl takes Letitia's hand again and tells her that this conversation should be of interest to her. She says she wants to talk about what happened to her father before he dies. Letitia asks in surprise what she just said. The woman in front, looking at her mischievously, asks if she is interested now. She suggests that the girl incredibly loved her father. Lyanka is surprised at how the girl looks when she learns about the next topic of conversation. Unexpectedly, she assumes that she doesn't want Aster to see her like this. She asks Letitia to relax and just follow her, because they need to go somewhere so the boy doesn't hear them. Lyanka asks not to get too close because she doesn't want to smell the girl's pathetic odor. Letitia understands that the girl deliberately met with a married man, so she cannot imagine how one can be so intrusive and reserved. They step aside, and the girl says this place should be perfect. Suddenly, Letitia strikes the person in front of her hard on the cheek. She explains that this is a blow for insulting her father's name. The girl tells her to say what she wanted to end this as quickly as possible. She asked her to share what she was so eager to discuss. Suddenly, a laugh escapes from Lyanka's mouth, which then turns into a hearty laugh. She asks the person opposite if she knows what a person must do before dying. Lyanka says that they must write a will, a document containing a person's last wishes. Letitia recounts that her father left no will. Suddenly, Lyanka, sticking her tongue out at the woman opposite her, says that is not true. She says that, in fact, he left a will in which he asked for the entire Violet estate to be left to them. The girl asks, what happens if the deceased did not have time to make a will before his death? She also wonders who Letitia thinks will have the most advantage in this situation. Letitia wondered if Jenny, her stepmother, would benefit. Jenny was a local aristocrat whom a distant relative introduced to the girl's father. Unfortunately, her husband died of illness shortly after getting married, so she came to them with her young son. And the girl's father decided to take pity on her and marry her. If her father really wrote a will, as Lyanka said, then she has no rights to the Violet estate. The girl asks if this makes her wonder if her father really made the decision to commit suicide on his own. Lyanka asks if the girl is sure that Jenny's ex-husband died of an illness. She says that if she doesn't believe it, she can check for herself, because Jenny grew up in a small town, and it's not hard to find those who knew her. Letitia asks why the girl is telling her all this. Lyanka says she hates Jenny because she tried to seduce Aster for a long time. The girl is very surprised by the information received, not believing what she heard. The woman opposite says that it was impossible not to notice Jenny's pathetic attempts to get close to him. Lyanka adds that she has another reason for doing this. Suddenly, Letitia feels a sharp pain in her chest. Lyanka, without a single drop of remorse, says she feels sorry for the girl. She stabbed the girl standing in front of her with a knife she had been hiding behind her back all this time. Lyanka extends her hands and deliberately pushes the girl off the cliff directly into the water, saying it would be a shame to see her die without knowing anything. She says goodbye to the girl and adds that it is time to die to reunite with her father. Letitia realizes that her stupidity broke her heart because she believed she was doing everything in the name of her own happiness. As a result, she realizes that due to her stupidity, she forgot about her father and her family. Over time, it got to the point where she started to forget about herself. Suddenly, someone dives into the water and, swimming towards the girl, starts kissing her right in the water, asking her to stop crying. She asks who he is, but the boy tells her not to open her mouth if she doesn't want to drown. The stranger asks her not to make any movements. Letitia suddenly wakes up in a completely unfamiliar place. She realizes that the wound in her chest has somehow healed. A boy enters the room and realizes that she is already awake. He says he got tired of shaking her while she asked him to hug her while sleeping. Letitia looks at him, surprised, and realizes that this is someone she knows. The girl asks him if he is the hero of the Western Empire, the Cyanian, a member of the ruling family. The boy, without hesitating for a second, confirms her assumption. She asks him what he is doing here, and the boy says he would like to ask her that first. Sionian asks if she was with the daughter of Marquis Snowder, being the only daughter of Count Violet. He wonders why Lyanka suddenly hurt the girl and pushed her into the river. The boy reports that he managed to stop the bleeding, after which he asks not to open the wound. Suddenly, he touches the girl's body with his lips, and she, frightened by such a surprise, asks him to wait. Suddenly, Rengaro, Sionian's advisor, bursts into the room. He asks how he can bother the girl if she woke up not long ago. The boy says he is not serious, and the advisor apologizes to the girl for what happened. He asks if Letitia is surprised to wake up in such an unusual place. Rengaro reveals that this is a Westeros passenger ship. Westeros is a land opposite Northland, blessed by the gods, where the imperial family rules. Perhaps because this land is blessed by the gods, people with special abilities are born here. And it is said that Sionian was blessed by the sun god, and it was surprising that someone like him decided to save the girl. The girl wonders why the boys suddenly decided to save her. Rengaro says they were visiting Northland, but Sionian noticed the girl in the river and decided to save her. Letitia asks him if what he was doing was Saul's blessing, and he agrees. She also wonders if they informed the Violet estate that she was alive. Rengaro reports that they sent a messenger, but they are already holding a funeral, which surprises the girl. According to the messenger, the girl was depressed by the loss of her father, and that's why she threw herself into the river. Letitia asks if Lyanka really said she threw herself into the river. The advisor reports that Sionian found this strange because it did not explain her chest wound. The boy, who has been listening attentively to the dialogue the whole time, asks the girl who hit her. Rengaro says they said the girl's stepmother was the last person she met, and he didn't see anything. Letitia states that it was her husband's mistress, Lyanka Snowder. The advisor reports that it seems the messenger saw this girl. According to him, Lyanka cried a lot at the girl's funeral. Rangero asks her if she wants to go back to her husband. Letitia refuses, assuming that he is also her accomplice. She suddenly decides it would be better if she drowned, but then realizes that they are the ones who should die. Seonian comments out loud that he likes the girl's look. He says that after hearing this, he received a sentence. The boy confidently says he will help Letitia get revenge. He promises a revenge that will make the villains long for death. Seonian says that if she does as he says, everything will turn out perfectly. He calmly guarantees the girl the return of wealth, honor, and life. Letitia suggests that this revenge will also have its price. The boy immediately confirms her assumption, smiling mischievously. Suddenly, he says he wishes Letitia Violet were still dead. If Onion does it with the price she will have to pay for the revenge, the girl, with her head bowed, asks him if he wants to get something out of this. The boy realizes that she is quite smart, which he likes. He reports that an assassin is operating in the northern lands and has killed someone close to him. To find him, they needed a person who knew local social life well and who knew how to extract information from people. Seonian seriously says he leaves this task to the girl. He promises to give Letitia a status and a completely new life. The boy was going to change the girl's appearance using his power. After that, she would no longer be recognized by those she suffers from. She hesitantly asks if it is really possible to completely change appearance. Seonian says it is completely possible with his powers from the sun god. Suddenly, the girl asks him why they chose her. She says they are not close at all, and there should be no reason for it. The boy reminds her that they met at her wedding. Letitia says they barely talked then, and that's not enough to entrust such an important task to him. Seonian, surprised by her words, remembers that he later gave the girl important advice. That day, he told her to run away immediately from Astor Winchester. It was winter, but the Winchesters decided to go ahead with the wedding anyway. And maybe it was because Astor got irritated easily. The guests whispered among themselves that Seonian, chosen by the Son of the West, had arrived at the wedding. He was with the second prince of Northland, the monk Calix, and they were members of ruling families who had been on the throne for over 300 years. People were surprised that Seonian had enough power to defeat demons and even heal people. None of the guests expected to see the boy in person at the ceremony. Letitia, hearing the whispers of those present, turned towards the Blessed One. Unexpectedly, the girl's stepmother approached him and Astor, and told them that these honorable guests were present here only thanks to her and their connections. She asked if it was really exciting to receive such valuable guests. The woman quickly asked to ask the cook if he knew how to cook Westeros cuisine. Olivia approached them and told them it was better not to cook something so suddenly. The stepmother suddenly asked if she thought her relatives were so rude. Their rudeness was that they would not support the wedding of her only daughter. Astor seriously asked the woman to drop all this, and the woman calmed down. Finally, she said that Letitia would still be her daughter when they got married. Olivia decided to ask her mother if she should try to ask the Son of the West to give a congratulatory speech. Everyone understood that if he had given a speech, the guests wouldn't have been able to speak ill of the wedding. Therefore, the stepmother immediately liked her daughter's idea. Olivia notified her that she had gone to ask Seonian to give a speech and headed in the right direction. The woman, talking to Astor, told him to watch his sister use her skills for the good of their family. Then she turned her attention to Letitia and told her to watch and learn. Olivia, angry, returned to her stepmother and brought her bad news. According to Olivia, Saul refused and said he had already done more than enough when he came to the wedding. The woman turned to her son and asked if he also wanted to try. The guy turned around and asked why he should do this, clearly refusing. Letitia decided to try with Astor to approach the guests again. She told her husband and added that it was good to improve the Winchesters' reputation. Astor agreed almost immediately, which made the girl very happy. The two, full of determination, approached the honorable guests. The monk, seeing them in front of him, smiled and asked if they were really the lucky ones today. Letitia and her husband bow and introduced themselves. Seonian abruptly asked if they wanted to ask them to give a congratulatory speech again. The monk, dissatisfied with the behavior of the man sitting next to him, said his name, but he pretended not to understand what he was talking about. Astor said abruptly and threateningly that if the guests had heard his congratulatory speech, then their family would no longer be considered low class. Seonian, mocking them, pretended to be surprised by this news. Then he coldly said that he didn't think that would be enough. He mockingly asked them if they really thought he wanted to give a speech for their poor family. The guy finally said he had nothing else to give them, so they should leave and not bother him anymore. Astor angrily said that the decision to call them was a mistake. He apologized, turning around and walking in the opposite direction. The guy abruptly pulled away the girl's hand that was trying to reach him, reminding her that he had already told her not to do that. Letitia, surprised by her husband's aggression, stopped, allowing him to leave. She didn't plan to be rejected like Olivia. Seonian, who was following what happened, said he left his wife alone only because he lost his temper. The girl turned to the speaker and, bowing, apologized to them for what happened. The monk sitting next to him, feeling very uncomfortable, told her she shouldn't apologize. Letitia asked the guests to enjoy the upcoming ceremony. Suddenly, Seonian raised his hand and asked the girl to wait. He, smiling, asked her to allow him to give her some advice before leaving. The boy suddenly told her to run away, which surprised Letizia greatly. Seonian explained that he was literally advising her to flee from here. He said that the girl would never be happy next to Astor. Letitia apologized and said it was time to leave, ignoring the boy's advice. Seonian, looking at her sternly, silently called the girl a fool. That day, Letitia still did not heed the boy's warning. He says maybe this shows how much she loved him. He then mutters that he can't believe she returned this love in that way. The fact that the girl was here now was almost like salt in an open wound. The girl, deaf to some of his words, looks at him stunned. She asks if Seonian will really help her get revenge. The boy instantly, without thinking, replies with his consent. Letitia confidently says she then accepts his proposal. From that moment on, Seonian believed that their agreement was almost in force. As a final step, he ordered her to kiss the tip of his boot. The girl, embarrassed and at the same time very surprised, asks him what he means. Rangero, smiling, explains that this is a custom in the Western Empire. He says you must kiss the foot of a member of the ruling family when you swear allegiance to the empire. This showed devotion and obedience to the leader of their nation. Letitia remembers that she seems to have heard about this before. The founder of the ruling family of the West was actually a demigod. He used his powers to grant special blessings to people, which eventually became an imperial tradition. Seonian says that once she accepts his proposal, she can never become Letitia Violet again. The girl believed that Letitia was a fool who endured terrible treatment until she was murdered by her husband's mistress. A fool who gave everything for the husband who cheated on her. She was a pathetic daughter who led her father to death. Now was the perfect opportunity to destroy all this, to destroy the past. The girl asks him to fulfill his promise to help her take revenge. Seonian raises his head and his hand begins to glow. He tells her that from now until her death, she will serve him and carry out his orders. The boy, with a slight smile, asks if she is worried. Letitia, answering his question, says that although not much, such a thing exists. She reports that the only thing she fears is having her face ruined. Seonian asks if she is afraid of what she will have to face. She asks him if he really thinks he can handle it, and the boy tells her to put those thoughts aside. He says that, unlike Astor, who forced her to endure such terrible things, he wants the best for her and will be by her side even if things don't go well for her. The boy says he will understand if she still doubts him. He tells her never to underestimate herself again. The boy, without waiting for an answer, decides to start changing the girl's appearance. He proudly states that Letitia Violet no longer exists. Seonian says that from now on she will be Viscountess Canta and Rose Victoire. From now on, the girl had to live only under this name. He says that now not even her closest relatives will ever recognize her. She had dark hair like Astor. Her facial features were more expressive and her eyes brighter. Her face was completely different, and she had already changed a lot. Ksenian asks his advisor if this is really an impressive transformation. Rangero tells the girl that she looks like the beauties in famous paintings. He asks her to follow him and decides to end the day, and as she leaves, Letitia abruptly turns back. She quickly walks towards Seonian, drawing his attention to herself. The girl bows and sincerely thanks the boy for what happened. He calmly says he doesn't need her gratitude at all. Seonian says he only needs her to be useful to him, and then asks her to try not to become dispensable to him. Rangero tells the girl that she and the boys are now in the same boat, so they certainly cannot be considered strangers. He invites her to finally finish all the preparations. The boy invites her to listen to details about her mission. From now on, she will play the role of Kant's rising star. She will also bear the name of Viscountess Anne Rose Victoire, and she will need to receive proper education for the next year. The girl asks if she will go to Kant and receives confirmation that she will need to study culture independently. Accents and feminine gestures. With enough skill, Kant women can become viscountesses and duchesses. It is not the same in Northland, where ingrained customs prevent women from inheriting titles. That's why she couldn't inherit her father's title, even though she was the only daughter. She had never been to Kant before and had never left Northland. Rengaro says that in Kant, they speak the common language of the continent, and she replies that they have a special accent. He asks her not to worry, and although a year is a rather short period of time, they will try to help her so that no one suspects anything. The girl understood that she now had a different appearance, a new status, and also strong support. She wanted to make sure to repay all the good Sionian had done for her. Her wound suddenly reopened, because after a long time in the hot bath, her blood circulation had increased. Rengaro asks the girl to go to Sionian just in case. He says the guy might be talented at embarrassing people, but upon closer inspection, he turns out to be a very kind person. The boy also adds that this means she doesn't have to adapt to his mood or try to please him. Sionian only cared about how useful she was and didn't expect to be treated like a leader, so there was no need to humiliate herself before him. Rengaro asked if this was really wonderful, already knowing the answer. Letitia knocks on the opposite door, and soon the door opens. Sionian is in the doorway looking curiously at the girl and waiting to know why she came. She calmly tells him that her wound is bleeding again. The girl says she didn't want to bother him, but Rengaro insisted. The boy invites the girl into the room. After thinking for a while before doing so, Letitia lies down on the floor to make it easier for him to treat her. She asks worriedly why the wound is taking so long to heal. The guy suggests that something must have been put on the blade. He says it's not because he lacks skill. The girl tells him that thanks to his help, she felt much better. Sionian gives the example that it is the owner's job to take care of the horse. Letitia noticed that he was stroking her hair and couldn't help but wonder when was the last time someone stroked her like that. Suddenly, the boy asks her if she still regrets something that remained in the past. She says she didn't give up everything of her own free will. Everything was taken away and destroyed from her. He asks how she ended up in this situation, if she doesn't give the impression of being a vengeful person. The girl replies that maybe it's because it seemed easy to approach her and fair enough to leave a mark on her. Sionian looks at her, attentively trying to capture every word. Suddenly, he asks why wives in Northland are so attached to their husbands, after which he recalls that in ancient times, when the husband died first, it was customary to bury the wife alive with him. She says that things are not so difficult now, but that they are still conservative lands. The boy asks how her husband can so proudly admit to being unfaithful. Letitia says that male infidelity is not something to be proud of. It is something shameful, but tolerable to some extent. This was especially tolerable if the infidelity did not interfere with procreation. Sionian asks what happens with women, and she looks at him surprised. He, explaining, asks what will happen if it is the woman who cheats. She says that in Northland, if a married woman is caught cheating, she is immediately sent to her mother, and instead of getting a divorce, she is forced to pay a decent amount of alimony to her husband, to her relatives, after which children born from adultery have no right to inherit. The boy concludes by saying that women are clearly at a disadvantage. She asks why the boy asked her about this. Sionian slowly approaches her and then hangs over her. He says that after all, she can do whatever she wants. The girl looks at him surprised, blushing. She was trying to digest what the boy had just told her. She recalls how they kicked her out of the house, even though she didn't cheat. And since she is dead, there is no need to pay her any alimony. The boy realizes that this is not to mention the fact that there are no people claiming the inheritance. He says it would be foolish to stay with someone worse than her ex-husband if she cheated on him. Sionian reports that this is a regression, placing his hands on the girl's waist. He comments that, after all, he is not such a bad partner, and then asks for her opinion. Something drips onto her face, and she realizes that she is breaking down in tears. Letitia asks him if that's what he meant when he called her useful. She was used to being treated like a thing, because she was a doll for the Winchesters to make money. And for Astor, she was a useless wife, also like a doll. But now she has been reborn, and has promised not to live like before. She wondered if, after all, this was a possibility. Letitia gently pushes the boy away from her, after which she apologizes and says she needs to return to the room. She quickly runs away and meets Rangero on the way to the room. The boy catches a glimpse of tears on the girl's face, after which he understands what happened. He nervously enters Seonian's room without closing the door behind him. The boy asks if it was necessary to mock Lethia. He asks him to take pity on her and tells her it's his fault that she ran away without listening. Rangero asks why he pretended to ask her to become lovers, if it was something worse than a simple misunderstanding. The guy asks him if he has forgotten that he is the son of the Chancellor of Westeros, after which he realizes it is Saul, and that there is no point in trying to surprise him with anything. Xionian looks silently towards the door while his advisor helps him dress. Rangero says that despite his words, he understands that he is worried about the current situation. The advisor suggests that he go and calmly clarify everything. He says that this way, absolutely, nothing will interfere with their plans. A girl has a dream where she is called somewhere late at night. Lyanka runs after her and asks if she really hasn't realized yet that she has nowhere to run. She mockingly asks if Letizia wants relief. Suddenly, the girl is grabbed by the legs and instantly falls. Voices from the water are heard saying that it would be better if the girl died. Letitia reaches out her hand, screams and calls for help. Suddenly, a grim Aster grabs her hand, giving the girl hope. She desperately asks him for help, while the boy simply smiles. The boy abruptly lets go of her hand and calls her by her full name. Suddenly, Lyanka stabs her from behind and chose the right moment. Aster approaches the girl and jokingly tells her that no one will save her. Letitia wakes up in a cold sweat and struggling to catch her breath. She gets up and walks towards the bottles, deciding that she probably won't be able to handle this sobriety. Seonian suddenly appears from behind and asks her what she is doing. The girl, very scared by such a surprise, begins to clear her throat. The boy takes the bottle from her and tells her that drinking with deep wounds is stupid. Letitia tells him that the wound hurts so much that she can't sleep. Seonian says that if it hurts, it's better to come to him and then asks why, in her opinion. There are no painkillers here. The girl looks at him surprised, searching her head for an answer. Suddenly, he grabs her and unbuttons her dress to look at the wound. The boy sees a large amount of blood and says it's only because she started drinking. He uses the power of Saul and, without placing his hand on her chest, tries to heal the wound. Letitia freezes and feels herself getting better every second. She apologizes for the inconvenience caused, after which she expresses gratitude. The boy looks at her angrily when he hears about some inconvenience. Seonian sits on the sofa and says that this bothers him. He also asks the surprised girl to sit not far from him. The boy, smiling, tells her that they are not done yet. Letitia sits hesitantly on the sofa opposite the boy. Seonian tells her that she drinks to the point where she loses her mind. He says that this is why she can't even play pranks on people. The boy says he only suggested cheating because it is one of the revenge strategies. If, after a year of training with Kant, she returned to Northland, where women had a hard time, the time might come when she would need his power. He says that perhaps he would decide to use her solely to fulfill his whims. But in this situation, he would not offer her all this. They sit in awkward silence while the girl tries to process what he said. She feels ashamed that such a boy would never desire her, but she thinks the opposite. She says she didn't even realize that she misunderstood his intentions and also showed her unpleasant side. So she doesn't know what to say. Seonian looks silently at the girl, listening to her attentively. He says he gave his part of the apology, but did not receive the girl's part. She asks him what she can do for the boy to forgive her. Seonian tells her to kiss the lips that toasted at her wedding. He says only then can he accept her apologies. The boy reminds her of her words, that she will do anything to get revenge. He asks if those were just some words. The girl denies it, realizing that this is just a test to see if she can convincingly behave like his lover. She really hopes this isn't real. Letitia, approaching him, asks him to close his eyes. He realizes that she acts as if she had never been married. She asks for forgiveness and kisses his neck, asking if she kissed the right place. Seonian tells her to move higher, and she kisses him right under the lips. He grabs her by the waist and, slightly annoyed, asks if she is doing it on purpose. The girl asks for forgiveness and asks if she should try again. The boy says it's okay and that she shouldn't do this, frowning slightly. He says he accepts the apology, after which he asks her to return to the bedroom. Letitia understands that this was still just a test and nothing more. She wishes him good night and then leaves, leaving him alone. The boy suddenly realizes that he is hot, so he completely unbuttons his shirt. He wonders why he suddenly got so hot. Suddenly, Rangero enters the room, about to say something about the palace. He, to his regret, sees the guy in front of him in this form and condition. Rangero says he will send a claim for moral damages, which he just received, so he asks to accept it. Xionian looks at him, dissatisfied with the words he heard. He asks the guy to leave the room, while he turns away so he cannot see anything else. The girl wakes up hearing voices outside the door, so she peeks out from behind the door, trying to find out what is going on. She sees Rangero talking to a man. He approaches her and asks if she slept well, and the girl tells him everything was thanks to him. Letitia asks worriedly if everything is okay on the ship. The man apologizes for bothering him and then asks her to wait here. Rangero says sarcastically that nothing special happened, only the engine exploded. He reports that it is unlikely to be repaired in the near future. Suddenly, the boy asks if she is tired of being in the cabin all the time. The girl, surprised by such a question, answers him in the negative. He invites her for a walk around the port, because he will have to leave for a year, so she won't see Northland soon. Letitia didn't understand why she should say goodbye to something if she was told to forget the past. Rangero says she can stay with him because he has a couple of dresses she could try on. He was sure that these outfits would fit the girl perfectly. He asks her to wait a minute while he looks for the right dresses. The girl found the situation as a whole incredible. Suddenly, she realized that her face didn't look like the one she had not long ago. Rangero returns and asks why the girl is suddenly so thoughtful. He suddenly asks if her face and voice will change. The boy starts laughing a lot, not understanding how this idea came to the girl. He says Xionian can only change her face and a couple of other things. Rangero suggests stopping the jokes and starting to try on outfits. She tries on one of the outfits and the boy congratulates her, for which she thanks him. He asks her if the girl knows where to go in the port, and she agrees. Northland Seaport was near her house, so when she was a child, she used to go there with her father for his business. Rangero says there are rumors that gang-related incidents have increased lately. He reports that, just in case, he will send escorts along with the girl. The boy quickly introduces the girl to Alexa Wolf, her companion. He says she is a soldier known as the Swift Sword of the West. Letitia thought she saw a man in front of her, but the girl still looked fine. The girl introduces herself as Letitia Violet and says she is delighted to meet you. Rangero tells the girl that this is not true and that what she said was wrong. Letitia sighs, realizing she just introduced herself incorrectly. She introduces herself again, but this time as Anne Rose Victoire. Alexa quickly kisses the girl's hand in front of her as a greeting. She makes a slight bow and says she is ready for the Viscountess's services. The soldier promises the girl that she will be under her reliable protection. Anne Rose says she had no idea that the ship she was on all this time was so beautiful. The girl next to her says this ship is called Platinum Celeste. Suddenly, Anne Rose hears someone say that only idiots sail on such a big ship. She realizes that this voice sounds very familiar to her and tries to find out what kind of people they were. The girl sees her ex-mother-in-law and her ex-husband's younger sister. It was Olivia and Clarissa, who greatly scared her with their presence here. Those nearby said that their ship was much better. She understood that they couldn't recognize Astor's ship right in front of them. Alexa looks surprised at how the expression on her companion's face has changed. Olivia suggests to her mother that she buy a bigger ship. Clarissa says that would be a very good idea. She reveals that they could pay for the ship with Letitia's insurance. Olivia asks her mother how someone can say that. She says that in the end she was useless. The girl adds that Letitia Violet, even after death, remained useless. Anne Rose looks at her in shock, surprised by what she heard. Clarice says Astor was generous to marry her. She couldn't believe that the court didn't want to pay them the insurance because they suspected Astor had something to do with her death. The woman added that Jenny, Letitia's stepmother, doesn't know how to manage money. So if she took everything, it would be a terrible waste. They start talking about Lyanka, and Olivia says that since she was the only survivor of the Great Fire, she is now the sole heir to the Snow Whiter family. The girl claims that after her death, Lyanka will bring them more wealth. Clarissa happily says she looks forward to this event. She says she hopes Lyanka will be more useful than Letitia. Suddenly, Olivia notices that Anne Rose is standing nearby. She approaches the girl and curiously asks where she comes from. The girl says she is glad to see foreigners here from time to time. Andros says nothing and abruptly asks if the girl speaks Northland. He asks if she knows that the 3 continents speak the same language. Andros suddenly realizes that she cannot get a single word out of her mouth. Alexa suddenly calls the girl's attention by interfering in the conversation. She says it's nice to walk around the port, but it's time for them to go back. The soldier suggests she go somewhere else that might be quieter. They sit down at a small table and Alexa notices that the girl is having a small problem. She curiously asks if the girl knew these people before. Anne Risset reports that these people are her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Alexa reminds her that they have been like this in the past. The girl thanks her for her help, and the soldier says he is only following Lord Sionian's orders. The waiter brings them food, briefly interrupting their dialogue. Alexa asks her to eat and tells her that gaining or losing weight can change her appearance and, in some cases, she can become completely unrecognizable. Andrew smiles slightly and decides to follow her companion's advice. She gradually decides to start eating, bringing the fork of food to her mouth. Suddenly, she is drawn by a male voice coming from nearby. The guy says he didn't think she would hide from him in a place like this. The girl gets scared realizing it is Aster, after which she tells Alexa that he is her husband. The escort asks the girl not to panic because he won't be able to recognize her. The voice of a second man is heard apologizing for not being able to meet. The guy asks his friend if he has tried this restaurant's dishes. The girl looked closer and realized that the second guy was Vandal Bryson. This was a close friend of Aster. He attended his wedding. Anne Rose was extremely grateful that they couldn't recognize her. Alexa asks if the girl has calmed down, and she replies that she has. The soldier suggested she leave slowly, satisfied with the answer. Suddenly, Vandal starts shouting and asks what his dead wife would think. Aster says that if he divorced her, he would be left with nothing, and he decided to marry again because she couldn't have children. The guy asks him how he can do this to her if he perfectly knows the reason. Aster suddenly says they weren't as close as he thought. He recounts that once he realized things were getting serious with Lyanka, he knew what he had to do. And he even suspected that they threw Letitia into the river to make him feel guilty. The guy says he didn't even accept money for her insurance, so she wouldn't harass him. And in his new future with Lyanka, he doesn't need her money. Alexa addresses the girl, trying to draw her attention and distract her from the boys' conversation. Until recently, Anne Rose thought her ex-husband refused the money out of guilt. But it turned out that Aster betrayed her until the end. The guy says it would be too easy to divorce, so now they are wasting time praying for her soul. Alexa gets up from the table and invites the girl outside. Suddenly Vandal approaches and asks if the girl is okay. The escort says she is absolutely fine and asks him not to worry. The guy says that no man in Northland can ignore a woman's tears. He asks her to tell him if he can help the girl in any way. Alexa says she is fine, but that he shouldn't do it. Suddenly, a boy enters the building and apologizes for being late. He tells the girl that she cries all the time whenever he leaves for a while. The boy approaches Anne Rose and slowly lifts her head by the chin. Sionian asks what he should do with the girl in such circumstances. Anne Rose looks at the man in front of her with hope in her eyes. Alexa abruptly asks why the boy was so late. She asks him if he knows how long they have been waiting for him, and he apologizes. The boy, slowly approaching the girl, tells her that he will make up for his delay. He suddenly promises Anne Rose that he will buy whatever she wants. Sionian, turning around, turns away and leaves with the girl. They walk slowly down the street, and the boy asks her if she still has feelings, and cries again. She quickly answers in the negative, saying that she definitely no longer has romantic feelings. Sionian, looking sternly at the girl, asserts that she is lying. Anne Rose, lowering her head slightly and closing her eyes, says that it is true. She says that her past emotions got the better of her. The girl herself couldn't believe she missed her ex-husband. She thought that after all this, the boy must think she was pathetic. Sionian gently wipes the tears from the girl's eyes and tells her she is really a crybaby. He seriously says he knows how much her heart aches right now. The boy asks her to stop hiding her wounds by lifting her head slightly. He says he would rather bite his tongue than see her like this. Suddenly, Sionian says that maybe she needs some enlightenment. He tells her that he wants to show the girl something, so he asks her to come with him. Anne Rose, scared by what is happening, looks tensely in his direction. His carriage slowly approaches an old and dark cemetery. Sionian asks the girl if she knows where they are now. She looks at him seriously, not understanding why they came here. The guy says this place is the cemetery of the Winchester family. The girl directly asks him the reason for their sudden visit. He silently leads them somewhere, without answering Anrose's question. Rangero and the girl obediently followed him, not breaking the resulting silence. Suddenly, Seonian asks her to read the name on the gravestone to the right. She has doubts, but the boy still insists that she read it. The girl realizes that her former name, Letitia Violet Winchester, is written there. Suddenly, the guy addresses his advisor, who immediately responds. He asks Rangero what the funeral customs are in Northland. The boy says that her favorite things are usually buried with the deceased. He gives examples of favorite flowers, dresses, family photos, or some things that represent the deceased. Suddenly, Seonian asks the girl if she is interested in what is in her coffin. Andros quickly says she doesn't want to know anything. The boy reports that he believes there is still a lot to be done. Suddenly, all the attendants present begin to dig in the ground, trying to pull out the coffin. Seonian runs his fingers over the surface of the material and realizes how cheap it is. The guy orders his subordinate to open the coffin to find out its contents. A shovel sharply sticks into the coffin, trying with all its might to open it. Anrose realizes what is in the coffin, and her eyes fly open in surprise and horror. The coffin contains many bags of ordinary garbage. Rangero covers his nose and says this is really terrible. He asks how someone can fill a deceased relative's coffin with trash. Seonian reminds the girl that in Northland, there is a custom to bury the things that characterize the deceased with them. He asks her to look at it again and analyze the situation. The boy asks if Anrose misses this kind of life. Suddenly, the girl faints, but Seonian manages to catch her. He realizes how weak she was at that moment. Rangero supposes that the girl is incredibly shocked. Both boys understood that they shouldn't have shown all this to Anrose herself. However, Seonian understood that she was stubborn and stupid, so she would stand firm even if he warned her. And the revenge they sought was not a simple matter. Rangero says that the boy's methods are always effective, but he doesn't know how to choose the right time. He asks him to apologize to the girl as soon as she wakes up. The boy says he hopes she won't have nightmares for long. Anrose carefully opens her eyes and slowly regains consciousness. She suddenly realizes that she is in Seonian's bedroom. The girl sits up and sees a boy sitting in front of her at a table. She decides she needs to leave, but he tells her she needs to rest. The boy reports that if she does not recover properly from the shock, she might get sick. Anrose looks disgustedly somewhere on the floor, thinking about something. Suddenly she asks what she did wrong. She says she loved them with all her heart and always tried for their well-being. The girl didn't want to lose this marriage after everything she had been through and doesn't know what they think of her. But she tried for them. She wondered if they originally thought she was so useless that they treated her death so disrespectfully. Zionian, getting up from the table, says it's not her fault. He says she did the best she could and was sincere. The boy reports that she simply chose the wrong person. Unexpectedly, she says she already knows, which surprises the boy. She abruptly asks if that's why he asked for her heart. Astor ran away at the first problems in the relationship and drew everyone to his side. This guy should never have been trusted with anything. But for a long time, she was blinded by her unconditional trust in him. Anne Rossi says that if she could, she would commit suicide without Lyanka. She says she knows her existence is a mistake and that she should never have been born. Seonian looks at her in shock, not expecting to hear something like this at all. This is what Rangero was talking about. This fragile girl is weakening, both mentally and physically. He realizes that this is most likely due to the shock methods he uses, but he promises to heal all her wounds. The boy was ready to take responsibility for getting her back. Seonian tells her that servants cannot be wolves and the innocent cannot be criminals. Still, the boy needed to open her wounds so he could heal them later. He tells her that her actions were never wrong. The boy says that if she continues to cling to the past, then problems may arise due to this in her new life. Seonian tenderly kisses her forehead and tells her that there is no need to regret the painful past. He recalls out loud that her ex-husband did not appreciate her love and gradually took everything away from her. He then says that they must be responsible for their actions. The boy asks her not to blame herself for the false feelings of pity and past sentiments. He reminds her that she did the best she could and was always sincere. Seonian asks her to be truly proud of herself for everything she has done. He suddenly realizes that the girl has finally stopped crying. The boy asks, slightly concerned, if her heart still hurts. In response, he receives confirmation and says that the blessing of the sun god cannot be used for this. Zionian says he cannot call himself a man if he doesn't help the suffering girl. He asks her if she wants her heart to hurt more. The boy approaches Anne Rose's lips and promises to take care of her. He says that the girl won't even be able to think about her ex. Aster is a guy she couldn't stop thinking about until that day, even though she was nothing to him. And she always thought he was much worse than her. She absolutely hated herself every time she saw him. She really should have hated him for what he did to her. Now the girl sees what she really regretted loving Esther. Seonian flatly says that he is doing everything right now. He, smiling, asks her to look only at him like this. Anne Rose believed she should only try for those who loved her in return. The girl thanks the man by her side for what he did for her last night. She promises that she will not allow something like this to happen again. Anne Rose politely says that maybe she won't be able to cope with the situation right now, but she is trying, so someday she will be useful. She politely asks him why he doesn't get rid of her then. Suddenly, Seonian tells her that he hates her doing that. He reports that he still hopes she won't do anything more than talk. The boy says that once she gets to the Duchy of Kant, she will have to adhere to a strict schedule. He asks her to tell him if she needs anything before she leaves. And Rose says she feels she has already received too much. She adds that if she could ask for anything else, she would like to receive a flower. The girl says one will be enough, and he asks her why she needs it. She shares a story about how her friend told her that after spending her first night with a man, she received a beautiful bouquet, and at that moment she was very jealous. Anne Rose says she dreamed of receiving flowers as a gift at least once. She interrupts the conversation and says she thinks it's time to leave. The girl quickly leaves, leaving him alone with himself. Seonian realizes that she never ceases to surprise him. Alexa and Anne Rose are having fun while shopping. The soldier asks the girl if she is happy with the visit to Kant and receives an affirmative answer. She suggests she was captivated by a sight never seen before and then says she is glad she likes it. They decide it is time to take a short break and rest. Anne Rose opens the room door and sees a space completely filled with flowers in front of her. The girl dreamed all this time and asked for only one flower. She never thought she would receive such a wonderful floral gift. Anne Rose decided she would do everything possible for Seonian, who instead of one flower gave her the whole spring. She wanted to return to the ideal Anne Rose Victoire in just 1 year. Time spared no one, not even those who offended other people. For absolutely everyone, time always passed in the same way, without exception. Anne Rose moved to the Duchy of Kant exactly 1 year ago. All this time, the girl wondered how Sion and Naji were doing. She couldn't believe that she and her boyfriend hadn't communicated for a whole year. Suddenly, Edgar calls the girl by her name, trying to bring her back to reality. He asks her with interest what she was thinking about so much. Anne Rose says she doesn't think he is interested in her trivial thoughts. The boy angrily hits the table and tells her not to talk like that anymore. He asks her if she has become a valuable member of the duchy this year. The Bodwins are a family well known for the production of their liquor, and for those who taught them the customs, the intonation and gestures of the Duchy of Kant. They have always been reliable allies of Her Majesty Sionia. It was he who ordered them to become the temporary family of Andros Victoire. The girl tells the person sitting opposite that this is not what she meant. The boy looks at her with pity, pulling away from the words he heard earlier. He says she will have to prepare to return to Northland soon. It is from this moment that she will have to endure many difficulties. Anne Rose agrees with him and understands what the guy means. She says that is why she was finally reborn as Anne Rose Victoire. The boy says worriedly that he is very concerned about her. He didn't know how difficult it would be for her after leaving there, but he didn't want to see her force a smile with the same sad look she had on her first visit there. The girl, smiling slightly, thanks him for his concern. She says she is no longer the same person she was a year ago. The boy prepares to say something, saying it is a slightly presumptuous request. He enthusiastically asks Anne Rose to consider staying. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by Marise, who quickly appeared. She asks why the guy isn't going to the warehouse and doing an inventory. The girl asks why he even asks her if he himself knows that this is presumptuous. After which she realizes that she definitely missed literature classes. She suddenly directs her attention to Andros, who is watching what is happening. She suddenly asks why the girl is sitting, listening to this nonsense. Morris says that this is not how a girl from Kant should behave and apologizes. She seriously asks why Anne Rose is apologizing. The girl says there is an expression in Kant that says you have to strike while the iron is hot. She reports that, according to this expression, time is valuable, so it is her fault for wasting it. Marise applauds, pleased with the words in front of her. She hugs the girl and tells her that no one will think she is a foreigner now. Anne-Rose smiles and says it's thanks to her excellent teachers. The girls exchange jokes and thank each other for the time spent together. The girl says she knows how difficult it was for Marise to be with her. She explains that this is why she appreciates all her efforts. Marise quickly kisses the girl on the cheek and calls her dear. Unexpectedly, she says that the person opposite also did a good job, so she deserves a reward. She gives the girl a paper on which her entire new biography is written. Marise reports that from this day on, the Victoires are in alliance with the Marquis of Bodwing. She says she looks forward to working with her. Anne-Rose, moved by the girl's words and her prize, hugs the woman in front of her. She sincerely thanks Marise for everything she has done for her. The girl suddenly says that now is not the time to dwell on emotions. She shouts to the man outside the door that he can come in. Rangaro enters the room, which greatly surprises Anne-Rose. The boy, smiling, points out that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He says he is glad to see that she is well, and is also very grateful to the Bodwin family for taking care of the girl. Anne-Rose, happy that the boy hasn't forgotten her, asks him if everything is fine with him. Rangaro agrees and says he was busy organizing Sionian's affairs. She asks the boy why he came, assuming he wants to see her progress over the year. The boy says he came to give her a new test. He suddenly pulls a sealed envelope from his pocket and hands it to the girl. Anne-Rose is surprised to learn about another test from him. Rangaro says that the reports on her progress have been extremely positive. Morris and Edgar feel a little embarrassed by the reference to their efforts. The boy politely asks her to look at the contents of the envelope. Anne Rossett is very surprised to see an invitation to a banquet in front of her. Morris is surprised to realize that this is an invitation to Duke Sullivan's annual banquet. Every summer, Duke Sullivan held a large banquet at his estate, to which almost all the nobility of Kent was invited every year. Rangaro says that to present her new identity to the public, there could not be a better opportunity, and she will have the opportunity to impress and meet many aristocrats. The girl looks at him inquiringly, still not understanding the full essence of the test. The boy says that during her stay at the banquet, she must not allow anyone to guess that she is actually a foreigner. He adds that Sionian himself assigned her this test. The girl says she doesn't think she should wear a green dress. She knew the banquet would last all day, but dark colors didn't suit her. Mari says she thinks sky blue might suit her. She adds that she needs something more impressive, as this is her debut in society. Anne-Rose says she doesn't think this can be called a debut, but the person next to her says this is the debut of a new her. She approaches the girl and asks her to have at least a little more confidence. The girl reports that she spent a long time learning to speak like a local, so, until she starts delving into her own head, she will not make mistakes. Mari says the main problem is that she is too shy, and girls from Kant are not like that at all. She adds that she is well aware that every person is different. The girl says that this is no reason to feel insecure. She reports that if the girl tries, it will be more than enough. Maris communicates that she should not be ashamed of herself if her husband and family hurt her. She clarifies that she has no reason to consider herself a criminal. Anne-Rose thanks the girl, but says she is still a criminal. She explains that anyone caught helping Anne-Rose Victoire will be convicted of fraud for falsifying identity and documents. Maris drops the topic and asks if she will wear the white dress she recommended. The girl says she will definitely wear it, since she chose it for her. She says this dress could be combined with blue accessories. Anne-Rose is surprised that it turns out Maris will also go, and explains it by saying that she is also an aristocrat. The girl thought she would be alone, and was very happy when she found out someone else would be with her. Anne-Rose lies on the bed, and understands that a crucial day will arrive tomorrow. She was really very interested to know if everything would turn out well. She calmly closed her eyes, finally trying to fall asleep. Letitia sits at a table, surrounded by strangers. Lyanka, sitting opposite, says she is happy to be here and that they are like a real family. She even agrees with her, and says she has waited a long time to finally find someone like this. The girl asks him if he thinks Letitia would be angry if she heard that. Suddenly, he asks her to stop joking and raises his glass of alcohol. The boy explains, smiling, that he was never happy with Letitia. The girl watches exhaustedly what is happening, expressing only discontent on her face. She didn't understand when she could finally escape this painful hell. Suddenly, Sionian takes her hand and tells her that it is very unpleasant to work with her. The girl looks at him inquiringly, not fully understanding what is happening. The boy says that her appearance has changed a lot, and that she no longer looks like the withered flower she once was. He adds that there was only one thing that seemed strange to him. What attracted him most to her was the weakness of his own heart. Letitia, slightly covering her mouth with her hand, laughs at the boy's words. Suddenly, she tells him that he is warm like the bright sun. Seonian decides to answer the girl and tells her that they look like tears. Suddenly, they perceive a smell so damp, cold, sad, and bittersweet like the smell of rain on a cold day. The girl holds the hand opposite the person holding her and says she feels much better now. Seonian tells her that she must regain strength and rest for tomorrow. He says he doesn't know how difficult things will be now. The boy promises that he will stay with her until she wakes up. Seonian picks up the girl in his arms and slowly carries her to the bed. They are surrounded by the same flowers that he gave her exactly 1 year ago. Letitia abruptly says she is incredibly grateful to him for the flowers. She promises that she will not forget them even after her death. The boy says that besides flowers, he can give her many things. He asks her to move on with her new life. Anne Rose, seeing this wonderful dream, smiles slightly and takes her time to open her eyes. The girl traveling in the carriage remembers that she had a very strange dream that night. She felt as if Seonian was visiting her while she slept. Suddenly, she hears a voice asking her what she is thinking about. Maris asks if the girl is worried and receives an affirmative answer. She says she is more than ready to show everyone the new Anne Rose Victoire. Anne thanks him. The carriage arrives at its destination, and the girls slowly get out of the carriage. Suddenly, she hears a familiar male voice not far away. Edgar approaches her and tells her that she looks like a princess and is very surprised to see her. The girl thanks him, and Maris's voice is sharply heard, saying she can't believe a boy would do this. She realizes that he never paid her such compliments. Edgar says he had never seen anything worthy of a compliment before. The girl attacks her brother with a handkerchief and prepares to strangle him. He asks what he did wrong, and Maris says he embarrassed her. Suddenly, Andros sees something in the distance and asks his friend to take a look. Maris notices that the rest of the guests are slowly starting to arrive. She suddenly says it's time to see her flower in full bloom. A man approaches the girls and clearly recognizes one of them. He addresses what he says is the famous Lady Maris Bodwin. The girl sarcastically asks him who he is, after which she assumes the man is not so famous since she didn't recognize him. Hayden asks her to stop being an idiot because they have seen each other many times. Edgar joins them and greets the man in a friendly manner. Maris asks since when he is following her and looks for a fight. She knew he was crazy about her, but she still feels sorry for him, and the girl asked him why he doesn't focus on her. She says she arrived first, so they are late, and someone suggests they go in. The girl asks him if he was waiting for her, and he starts getting angry. Hayden's fiancée, Charlene, suddenly appears out of nowhere. She admiringly tells Maris that she looks wonderful today. The girl says this dress makes her look slim, just like her style, and thanks her. She suddenly asks who the person next to Maris is. The girl introduces her as her close friend, Countess Anne Rose Victoire. She says that after her father's death, she was busy with family matters, so today is her official debut in society. Anne Rose says she is delighted to meet you, and then introduces herself. Charlene admiringly reports that she is not at all surprised, she is so beautiful, since she is a close friend of Maris. Suddenly, Olivia approaches them, surprised by such a meeting and remembering that they have met before. The girl introduces herself, and Charlene says this is her friend from Northland. Anne Rose barely refrains from starting to tremble, as she did the last time they met. She, smiling, says she remembers how they met at the docks of Northland. Olivia says she remembered her because she looked great, as she still does to this day. She quickly approaches Edgar and asks if he is the Marquis of Baldwin, and reveals that she has heard a lot about him through her friend. The boy calmly says that he too has heard about the Winchesters and Northland, and then he shares the information he knows. The girl asks, surprised, how he knows all this information. She reveals that Kant is known for its trade, so it constantly explores new opportunities. Olivia happily asks how they came up with such a great idea. She asks them to come visit to try their white tea. Andros saw the expressions on the Bodwins' faces and knew she could no longer act like a northern girl. Edgar says he had heard of their product as an excellent solution for polluted water in Northland, and that he didn't know white tea had these properties. He wondered how the Winchesters created such an effective and high-quality product. Charlene says that lime water hasn't been very popular because people in Northland don't like acidic things when they hear about the replacement of lime water. Olivia loudly notes that the boy holds her in high regard. But initially, no one supported the decision when she suggested exporting tea. The whole family thought that starting a new business with a new product, which was previously unpopular on the continent. It was crazy. At first, no one wanted to support Astor, but he was still persistent and moved forward no matter what. Anne Rose understood from the beginning that the girl was just blatantly lying. It was she who supported the boy, believed in him, and gave him the initial capital, which is why her family's business even fell. The girl understood that she only served as fertilizer for their prosperity. Olivia says she didn't expect to see each other again, and then expresses her hope that they will become friends. Anne Rose realizes that the time has finally come to extinguish them. Suddenly, the girl sees an interesting bag in front of her and draws attention to it. Olivia is surprised by the unexpected attention to her property. She proudly says that this bag came with a fan. The girl announces that it is made of luxurious Histrion silk. Anne Rose says that such an expensive fabric can only be seen on expensive dresses. The woman in front is very surprised and then asks how she found out. Olivia says that this bag and this fan are actually made from an old dress. Anne Rose, smiling slightly, says she simply guessed it. She suggests that the dress would suit a girl and then asks why she modified it. Olivia admits that it is in memory of her late sister-in-law. According to her, every time she looks at this bag and fan, she remembers her. The girl says she would like to go back to the time when she was alive. Anne Rose, listening seriously to her interlocutor, wonders if this is what she really feels for her. She shares a story about how a husband lost his wife and missed her so much that he kept her room in the same condition for 40 years after her death. Charlene excitedly says this is the story of Man Mito. Anne Rose says that no matter how many difficult years passed, the room remained in the same condition, as if someone still lived there. Olivia says there are similar stories in her country too. She reports that, in her opinion, the reluctance to lose loved ones is expressed the same way everywhere. Anne Rose, with a slightly menacing smile, turns back to the person next to her. She asks why the girl broke the valuable object of her deceased relative and made a bag out of it. Olivia looks at her interlocutor in shock. She clearly did not expect such a question. Everyone present looks at the girl seriously, awaiting an answer. She says that old things are forgotten if you hang them in the closet. The girl explains that she was simply very afraid of forgetting them. She reports that she would use a bag and fan much more often. Charlene, standing nearby, says that it is very kind of her. Anne Rose understood that she only did this because the dress didn't fit her. She had the same build as Astor. Both had wide bones and long limbs. The girl still remembered how she put on one of his dresses when she was kicked out of the estate. As a result, she still couldn't wear the dress she had taken. After that, she simply tore the thing into plain cloth. Anne Ross didn't understand how she could do this to her dress if her grandmother had given it to her. Suddenly, Mers approaches her and whispers that it seems Rangaro is looking at her. Hayden abruptly joins the conversation and asks how his daughter-in-law died if she wasn't that old. Olivia says that the girl came from a very poor family. That's why they accepted her, after which they tried to give her everything. However, according to the girl, this was not enough for her daughter-in-law. Olivia, almost crying, says that it seems she didn't love them as much as they loved her. She says that when her family asked the girl to leave, she ran away and died. The girl starts crying as she tells this, but says she doesn't want to forget it. Despite the pain, Anne Rose realizes that she didn't want to die. Everyone decided to kill her. Absolutely, none of the Winchesters mourned her death. She knew it was exactly the opposite, and Olivia was lying. Maryse watches with emotion as her friend's expression changes. She asks Olivia why she came all the way here from Northland. The girl says she came because she decided to visit the beautiful province of Kant. They ask her who she came with, and she says she came alone, but met Charlene. And they became friends. Maryse suddenly says that all this is quite interesting. According to her, it was not common to see a single girl traveling to other provinces. She also adds that Northland is known for being conservative, even when it comes to noblewomen. The girl reports that they are famous for their narrow-mindedness and for spreading rumors. She says she wonders what they would say when they found out she came all this way alone. Anne Rose, understanding where her friend is going, realizes there might be rumors about trouble in the family. because they would hardly allow her to go so far outside the principality. Olivia says her mom just wanted her to travel and learn more about the world. She reports that her mother simply loves her and loves her very much. Anne Rose, who knows her family too well, realizes the girl is lying again. Clarissa was one of those mothers who paid attention to only one child. This was especially true after Astaire's business took off, and he raised the family's status. The mother basically only used her daughter as a way to communicate with other clients regarding family business matters. She absolutely couldn't believe the girl had been released here. Anne Rose knew she probably wasn't telling her something. Her glorious conversation is suddenly interrupted by the appearance of Duchess Sullivan. She says she is happy to see the members of the Bodwink family, as well as Olivia. The girl repeats this again, not hiding her happiness at all. Edgar says it is an honor for them to be here, and the Duchess asks him to skip the formalities. She suddenly asks her guests why they aren't coming in. Edgar says that now that they have an excuse, they will finally enter the building. Charlene suddenly invites Olivia to go with them. Andros realizes that this was far from the end, and that something serious will happen today. She understood that maybe she had forgotten her victim, but the victim would never forget her. The girl firmly decided she would return all the pain she had gladly caused her. Andros admires the beautiful view of the interior and the pleasant atmosphere. It is definitely worth her attending this event for the most influential families in the area. Everything was incredibly perfect, like at a genuine elite banquet. Suddenly, the girl notices the cat and decides it is the Duke's pet. She also wanted a pet when she returned to Northland, because she had never been able to have one before because Aster was allergic. Maurice talks about something on the table, and Edgar tells his friend to leave quickly. The girl leaves the cat, which surprises him a little, and runs after the Bodwins. They order black tea, wine, salmon, and a basil sandwich from the waiter. Was this one of the most notable characteristics of the town of Kant? At first, Anne Rose found it difficult to adapt to their culture of excessive drinking. The waiter also approaches her, and she simply orders tea with cream. Suddenly, a dark-haired boy joins. Hayden approaches Edgar. They talk about how the boy has been very busy lately, so they haven't had much opportunity to drink together. Edgar says the next wine delivery will arrive soon, so he will be very busy. The boy also adds that he is glad to see that Mary's honored them with her presence. He says that everything suits the girl well, and that she is beautiful like coral. The girl happily thanks him for his compliments. Suddenly she asks why the boys aren't telling them why they really came. She says that in that case, she would like to know the name of the girl sitting at the table with them. The boy apologizes for sounding presumptuous and says that she is beautiful. Mari says that this is the younger sister of one of their relatives. Anne Rose, who heard everything perfectly, realizes she is 2 years older than the two Budwins. She assumes that she is simply proud of her beautiful sister, after which she introduces herself to the boy. He, upon hearing the name, asks if this is a Budwin family. The guy says he thought the last Marquis left no heirs. He adds that he thought the family succession would be chaotic, but it turns out everything turned out great. Edgar says there were no problems, and even through generations, the Victoires preserved the family. And her black hair next to her is proof of that. Some of them confirm it because their grandfather's hair was a color called crow wing color. Andrew quietly whispers his gratitude to his friend for being able to say something for her. The boy asks what they were talking about and then asks to join them. He says it is an honor to meet you all today. The girl initially knew that the day would be quite eventful. She started feeling tired from all the excitement, so she decided to take a break. Suddenly, she hears Hayden asking his wife if she was going to wear a turquoise ring. He says he even wore matching blue cufflinks. Charlene reports that she left the ring on the table for a minute, but it suddenly disappeared. The man assumes it rolled onto the floor, and she says she thought the same thing, but she couldn't find it no matter how much she searched. She suggests that the ring might have rolled somewhere. The man also says that one of the new maids might have stolen it, but Charlene denies it because it cannot be sold as the design there is unique, and it has an engraving. Anne Ross, hearing this, couldn't believe someone had gone that far. She slowly approaches one of the rooms, deciding to rest there. The girl, opening the door, sees Olivia surprised in front of her. She quickly withdraws her hands, still startled by such an unexpected guest. Anne Ross looks at her threateningly, not understanding what she was trying to hide from her. She closes the door behind her and asks Olivia what her impression of the Kantian Tea Party is. The girl asks if they are really different from the Northerners. Olivia confirms her words and says that the atmosphere here is a little more serious. She also adds that the Count and his family treat her very well. Andros says that everything was thanks to Maryse, because she was better than the girl in terms of communication. Olivia asks if that's why she decided to introduce herself to the group. She says that, in her opinion, the girl is charming by nature, like a flower that has just opened. In reality, Olivia did not receive as much attention as she expected. She thought people would be interested in a foreigner at a party, especially men. And she also thought that interacting with the local nobility would be much more interesting. However, all the attention was focused on the Bodwin family. Anne Rose asks why the girl came here, and she says she was a little tired. So she decided to take a break. She says she understands, because sometimes it gets very exhausting to hold a conversation for a long time. Anne Rose asks the girl not to worry about her and to relax. Suddenly, she assumes she did something she shouldn't have done. She didn't believe Olivia had given up her bad habit, and it was just a coincidence that Charlene had lost her ring. But the girl also understood that she might be mistaken at that moment. She tries to put these thoughts aside, convinced that Olivia stole something. The girl clearly saw that when she entered the room, she was hiding something. Anne Rose puts her jewelry on the table and says she has been busy since morning. That's why she is a little tired. Olivia asks if she also wants to rest a little, and the girl says she will need about 30 minutes. Suddenly, the girl notices an ornament appearing on the table. Her gaze is immediately drawn to the object lying on the table. Time passes and Olivia looks around slyly, looking for the girl. She contacts Anne Rose, but receives no response. The girl asks the woman sitting if she is sleeping, expecting an answer. Time passes, but the sitting woman remains silent. Olivia suddenly hears a voice from afar asking where the bathroom is. There are voices saying that other ladies have taken that path, so it's worth going there. The girl hastily leaves the room, leaving the sleeping woman alone. Anne Rose sees Olivia smiling in front of her in her dream, which makes her wake up startled. She immediately runs to the table where the decoration was. The girl smiles seeing that there is nothing else on the table. Suddenly, two girls enter the room, surprised that Anne Rose is in the room. She says she came to rest a little, after which they tell her it's around 5 o'clock. The girls apologize for waking her up, and she says that if it weren't for them, she would have slept through the rest of the tea party. One of the girls reports that Lady Maryse was looking for her, and says that in this case, they need to find her as soon as possible. Lanrose approaches the table, pretending she is getting ready to leave the room. Suddenly, she starts murmuring something about her hair clip. The girls ask her if she is okay, excited by what they hear. Anne Rose says she thinks her hairpin is missing a part. She asks what she should do, because this jewelry was very dear to her. The girls say they will help search, and Victoire tells them what the hairpin looked like. They, upon hearing her story, say it sounds quite expensive. Each of those present hastily starts a thorough search. One of the girls asks if she really lost her hairpin here. Anne Rose says she took it here just before going to sleep. She knew that if she blamed Olivia too soon, the situation could turn against her. The girl knew it would be better to involve other third parties. One of them promises that they will definitely find the missing hairpin. Victoire looks at her satisfied, knowing that her plan is turning out excellently. She knew these girls would be perfect witnesses. Suddenly, the three of them hear the sound of a bell, which they cannot help but pay attention to. One of the girls excitedly asks if everyone heard that sound. It was a ceremonial sound when a member of the royal family or important guests arrived. They knew that important guests were about to arrive, so they decided to check it out. Andrews had learned a few things from Maryse a long time ago when she was learning to act like a local. When one of the tea party organizers rings the bell, important guests arrive. And everyone, upon hearing this bell, must leave everything they are doing and gather in one place. Victoire looks inquiringly at the guest and realizes that he was not on the guest list. Sullivan realizes that many guests have come. She thanks everyone for attending her modest tea party. The Duchess reports that her presence pleases her very much. She says it was an honor to have an unexpected and prestigious guest present today. Sullivan asks the guest, who has not shown himself during all this time, to come in. Suddenly, Sionian comes out, and the Duchess says she is glad to see him. Everyone said it was surprising that Saul's chosen one was here now. Anne Ross couldn't believe what she saw. She thought he had come to evaluate her. The girl remembered how he told her he would no longer allow her to think about her ex-husband. Victor looks at him and the Duchess surprised, being in a strong state of shock. The most shocking thing for her was that he came to check on the girl's well-being. Their relationship was based strictly only on their agreement, and it was stupid to expect anything more. She decided she should focus on the challenge instead of thinking about useless things. The girl did not want to disappoint Seonian in any way. She approaches the girls and tells them she didn't expect to see His Majesty here. They start talking about Seonian, and Maris suddenly approaches them. She asks what they are doing, and Andros says they were talking about His Majesty and his blessing. Maris wonders if the girl was afraid of his arrival and receives a denial. Victoire had planned to make a fuss about the missing hairpin, but now she didn't think it was worth doing with His Majesty around. She was afraid to allow herself to make absolutely any mistake. Maris looks inquiringly at her friend without understanding something. She asks where to pin the girl's hair and why she doesn't have it pinned up. Anra says she fell asleep a little, and when she woke up it was gone. She asks if she means someone took her jewelry. Charlene approaches them and asks if they are okay. Maris reports that she was sleeping and someone took her hairpin, and her friend says it might have gotten lost. Charlene suddenly says that the girl hasn't lost it at all. She recounts that she heard her talking about what she had before falling asleep, so someone definitely stole it. Victor suddenly asks if she really believes so. She wonders who would do such a thing. Suddenly, other people start gathering without understanding what the noise is about. Olivia, walking nearby, overhears the girls talking among themselves about Anne Rose missing something. Suddenly, the girl runs anxiously towards Countess Victoire. She runs to her worriedly and asks what happened to her. She enthusiastically takes her hand and calls her by name. The girl asks her if she remembers the hairpin she was wearing today and receives confirmation. Olivia suddenly asks if that hair clip was green. Then suddenly, she pauses and asks if it was still blue. Anne Rose, turning to the girl, says that something very strange happened. She says she remembers falling asleep while they were talking in that room. The girl says that when she woke up the hairpin was missing somewhere. Olivia looks at her inquiringly, very surprised by what is happening. Suddenly, everyone starts saying that she stole Victoire's hairpin. Olivia looks around fearfully, very nervous. She had always loved the color blue, and most of the things Edisha was missing, while she was her sister-in-law, were of that color. Aquamarine jewelry, sky blue dresses, and even sapphire-studded shoes were stolen. Victoire did not choose this outfit on purpose to set a trap. And this was a really nice coincidence that disconcerted the girl. Olivia says she remembers leaving her jewelry on the table. She recounts that she barely fell asleep, finished her makeup and left, but her hairpin was on the table. She suddenly asks if anyone else entered while she was sleeping. One of the girls says that when she entered, the hairpin was already missing, and right at that moment, Anne Rose woke up and found it missing. She asks if Olivia means the hairpin was stolen, and she denies it. Suddenly, Victoire looks at the girl again and puts an end to the argument. She asks her if she left as soon as she fell asleep, and she confirms. It appears from their conversation that this took place no later than 5 o'clock. Victoire says she remembers hearing the bell ring 5 times while she slept. The girls seriously say that they also heard it from the hallway. They conclude that approximately half an hour passed between Anne Rose falling asleep and the girls entering. Anne Rose suddenly remembers that the hairpin was already missing then. She reports that she absolutely guarantees this information. Olivia asks the person opposite if she really suspects she stole the hairpin. The girl, almost crying, says that it definitely wasn't her who did this. She says she can't believe they are so cruel to her. Suddenly, Charlene intervenes in the dialogue and asks to say a few words. The girl says that Olivia is not that kind of person at all, and that she only arrived in Kant not long ago. She says maybe it was a mistake and asks her to reconsider. Anne Rose suddenly turns to the girl seriously, which scares her a little. She asks if she also lost something valuable. Charlene suddenly remembers her recently lost ring. Olivia looks inquiringly at her friend, expecting support. The crowd starts whispering again, saying that this is too much to be a coincidence. The girl suddenly starts shouting that it wasn't her who did it. She says that if they don't believe her, they can even search her. Suddenly, Duchess Sullivan herself appears from somewhere. She reports that she heard very well that there was a thief at her tea party. The Duchess asks if there is anything she can do to help the victims. Hopefully, Olivia asks if she can be her witness. She asks the Duchess to search her so that everyone can see that she has nothing. The girl was sure that everyone would believe her if Sullivan herself searched her. The Duchess says that in that case, it's better to go to a more secluded place where there are no men. Olivia says she doesn't mind if she does this. The girl extends her hands and asks her to finally start the search. Sullivan seems doomed to decide to accept the culprit's offer. She approaches Olivia and takes her bag, starting the search proper. The Duchess reports that there is nothing in the suspect's bag. She starts searching something in Olivia's dress while she watches contentedly. Sullivan slowly finishes examining the suspect's dress. She seriously explains that there is absolutely nothing in the dress either. Anne Rose asks if she can also search the girl and asks if she doesn't trust Sullivan. The Duchess says she doesn't mind and that the girl, if she wants to, can search her again. First, Victoire decided to check the inside of the sleeves. Then there would be the breasts, but her neckline was already deep enough for everything to be clearly visible, and she would be in trouble if she touched her breasts openly. Olivia again says she has nothing, thinking it's over. Suddenly, Anne Rose falls to her knees, surprising her. The girl asks the suspect not to move when she asks what she is doing. Victoire asks her if she really wants to prove her innocence. Olivia anxiously asks how far she wants to go. Andrews starts searching her underwear and asks to let her go. Olivia suddenly starts screaming and sits up, not wanting to continue. Suddenly, a small blue ring loudly falls to the floor. Charlene looks closer and asks to slow down a bit, trying to figure out what fell. She leans down and slowly picks up the object she just found. The girl looks at what she just found and says it is her ring. Olivia suddenly starts trying to justify herself to her friend. She says she found it and wanted to return it later, but didn't know who it belonged to. Charlene asks why the girl didn't tell her then. She reveals that it is quite obvious that it belonged to her, as it matches her dress, and it has her symbol engraved on it, which she talked about. The girl immediately understood what was really going on here. Olivia says she shouldn't jump to conclusions, and that she can explain everything. Andros says she doesn't believe it at all, and interrupts the conversation. She reports that she just noticed that something else fell under her skirt. Sullivan says it is one of her paintbrushes from the guest room. Olivia screams that she wouldn't steal the brush, and it really wasn't her. The Duchess focuses her attention on the words that she didn't steal this particular thing. She asks if she stole everything else then. The girl looks at her fearfully and realizes she is in a dead end. Olivia asks if they know who her brother is, and says she has no reason to steal anything when Astor has a successful business. And he is an important family member. Kshanyan, who has been observing everything happening this whole time, says that this is simply a bad habit. The guy puts his glass of alcohol on the table and addresses the culprit. He asks if the girl left her country because of that bad habit. Olivia looks at him astonished, pretending not to understand what he is talking about. She says this is not true, and that her parents simply suggested she travel abroad. Rangero appears out of nowhere and says this is called hiding the truth. He reports that he is sure it was a deportation from the country for theft. Olivia suddenly says they dare not speak about her like that. She suddenly asks if she was also trying to have an affair with someone else's husband. Suddenly, the crowd starts whispering again, not understanding how one can have an affair with a person who is already taken. Rangero reports that she is the Duke's daughter who never married, although she is almost 30 years old, and that among her hobbies are viewing paintings and horse racing. He recounts that while watching the races, he met the son-in-law of the director of the Hirschwin racetrack, Robin Armand, with whom she was involved in a scandal. The guy says that after that incident, he was ordered to leave indefinitely. He asks if he just said something bad. Letitia remembers her conversation from a long time ago with Lisa Hirschwin. She told her that she had never believed in men at all. Her only concern was whether she could pass on good traits to her heirs. Robin Armand came from another country and was the son of a male, and he was lucky that the daughter of Duke Erzwin. Lisa chose him. The guy made his way to success only thanks to his appearance, but like many men, he could not give up bad habits. Letizia asked her friend if she was worried about this, and then received a negative answer. As the girl said, the Duke of Erzwin loved his daughter very much. He loved her so much that he hated his son-in-law only because he was with her. The man, seeing his son-in-law with other girls, was not at all surprised that there were rumors about him. He believed that other girls, if they had any decency, would not get involved with such a guy. Instead, the man made sure that the girls he dated kept quiet. So for a while no one dared to contact Robin no matter what he did. Unrose couldn't believe that the whole incident with the Hirschwin family was due to this. The girls in the crowd couldn't understand how Olivia could have gotten into this. Rangero says that she obviously has a problem with wanting to get what other people have. And it must be said that this is a very unfortunate trait. Duchess Sullivan suddenly turns to the guilty girl. She politely asks the girl to accompany her and her servants. Olivia begins to struggle, shouting that she can explain everything. Anne Rose was surprised that this wasn't Northland, but the girl was still cheeky. Sullivan points out that this is quite an unpleasant commotion. She suddenly realizes that her vacation isn't over yet. The Duchess says she has prepared a concert at La Fuente, so she asks you to accompany her and enjoy the melody. Victoire calmly hands Duchess Sullivan her found paintbrush. The girl thanks her for finding her lost one. Anne Rose decides that's enough, and they will talk about her hairpin later. The girl understood that she thought this was nonsense, because she could have bought her a new one. But for her this hairpin was special, because Sionian bought it for her with his own money. Suddenly, Rangero approaches Victoire from behind, surprising her a little. He politely apologizes for taking the girl by surprise. She asks him if he can help with anything now, trying to find out the reason for his appearance near her. The boy smiles slightly, looking satisfied at the surprised Anne Rose. He suddenly reveals that Sionian would like to see her. Rangero escorts the girl to His Majesty and tells her to come in. Anne Rose enters the building and sees Sionian himself in front of her. She reports that she already went to him as the boy asked. He abruptly asks what she was thinking, provoking such a scene. The boy reveals that once her true identity is revealed, she will no longer be of any use to him. He says what she did was more than hasty. The girl, closing her eyes, timidly asks him for forgiveness. She says she didn't want this to happen, and naturally everything came to that point. Sionian looks into her eyes and holds her chin with his hand. He says that the girl is even more talented than he thought. The boy reports that there was no accent or signs of a past relationship. He seriously says that everything was done simply to perfection. Sionian says that her last act was quite dangerous, but he believes that this time he can turn a blind eye. He adds that at least she didn't seem afraid while facing the enemy. Suddenly, Anne Rose asks him if he knew everything from the beginning. She wonders if he knew Olivia would be at this tea party. Sionian looks at her emotionlessly, not very happy with such a question. He asks what will change if he suddenly agrees. Victoire says that must be why he wanted this tea party to be her first test. She knew that the boy was testing something more than just Anne Rose Victoire at the same time. He will see if Letitia Violet can leave her past behind. Sionian asks what she would do if Olivia had nothing. Anne Rose says she was sure she would find at least one of the stolen jewels. But due to the circumstances, it was quite an obvious result, given all the available evidence. The girl understood that he would have caught her, even if she had told the truth at that moment. Because in reality, Olivia had not stolen the brush from her at that time. Victoire did this because she needed something to ensure Olivia wouldn't escape punishment. So she prepared in advance. The boy reveals that she had a better plan than he thought. The girl suddenly asks him why he helped her then. He looks at her with disgust, not waiting to hear such a question. Sionian reports that if he sees the glass is about to fall, he won't let it drop. Victoire looks at him surprised, amazed by this answer. She realized that the boy was indeed almost like a grandmaster. The girl knew that this was exactly how he saw her, but she didn't want to believe it. Suddenly, Sionian says that she has the same expression on her face again. He takes her hand, and the girl asks him what he means. The boy says that this is a facial expression that shows she missed him. His Majesty says that here, in his arms, she probably remembers the moment she cried at the bottom of the lake heartbroken. He moves closer to her and asks her to tell him about this. The girl closes her eyes and hesitantly says that she missed him. She says she wanted to share the warmth of his body with him, that she sought comfort in his body after a long separation. Anne Rose reports that a year has passed, but she hasn't stopped thinking about how he is. He asks if the girl wants to know that he missed her too. Victoire looks at him embarrassed, not daring to say anything. Suddenly, the boy seriously says that she is very naive. He reports that she constantly craves attention pathetically, but gets scared when she obtains it. The boy mockingly asks why she misses him. He says the girl can be in his arms whenever she wants. The girl says that he still won't be able to keep the girl he wants. He asks her if she thought he hugged her because he was worried. Sionian looks at the expression of shame and bewilderment on the girl's face. Of G. Penchai, Havela Kinhes is overthinking. The boy says he thinks she needs to fill her head with something else. Sionian says he cannot say that he missed her as much as she missed him. But he still missed her. He reports that the girl's eyes resemble Violet's and her pathetic attitude whenever she faces difficulties. After which he asks her to stop self-criticism, because he could never get rid of that old habit. She asks what happens if it's too hard for her to get rid of it. The boy says that in that case, he can only do one thing. He says he will hug her until her mind goes blank. Seonian asks if she really missed something like this. The girl wakes up, and the first thing she thinks is why all this is still happening. Seonian is a guy she shouldn't have anything to do with, shouldn't even touch her. She decided that she needed to finally stop thinking about all this. The girl knew that the only thing connecting them was their contract, and no matter how much she thought about it, nothing would change. Suddenly, Maris rushes into the room and asks what happened. The girl says everything is fine and asks her to look her in the face. She abruptly reports that the girl looks better than usual. Maris asks her friend to be as honest as possible with her. She simply starts talking about Seonian, and Anne Rose's eyes widen in surprise. Suddenly, the girl asks if His Majesty cursed too much. She asks him why else he spent the whole night with her, unless he locked her up so she would think about his behavior. Anne Rose, very embarrassed, reports that she had very little fight. Maris asks her to remember that she will always be on her friend's side, even if the guy scolds her a lot. She reports that she can't believe Olivia turned out to be that person. The girl says she tried to hide her true nature. She was sweet and friendly, but it turned out she was dishonest and reserved. Andros asks what will happen to the girl after Sullivan takes her away. Maris says she doesn't know, and then asks what her interlocutor thinks. The girl says that in Kant people are usually expelled from the country for something like this. But she doesn't think that so much attention is paid to a simple thief. She says that according to the law, a thief must pay a fine of 3 times the stolen amount. Victoire reports that if she has to pay for her hairpin, her tassel, and Charlene's ring, it will be a decent amount. Morris says that she is very good and a great student. Andros looks at her friend again and wants to ask her one more question. Suddenly, she asks him if she passed His Majesty's test. The girl, suddenly smiling, says that the test is not over yet. She reveals that Rangaro will prepare her for the next stage. Morris adds that he is already waiting for them downstairs, and that it is time for them to leave. Andros slowly approaches the boy and addresses him by name. Rangaro notices the girl approaching and wishes her good morning. He says she looks beautiful today, like a fresh lily. Victoire, slightly embarrassed, thanks the boy for the compliment. She points out that it is time for them to move on to more serious matters. The boy invites her to sit down because he wants to give her something before telling her about the next test. The two sit opposite each other on the sofas, breaking the silence. Rangaro places the girl's hairpin on the table and reports that after the interrogation that lasted all night, Olivia confessed to committing the crime. According to him, she even admitted to stealing the hairpin and the ring. However, the girl did not admit to stealing the brush, which enraged Sullivan. Andros, slightly saddened, says she regrets hearing this. She suddenly asks where Olivia hid the hairpin. The boy coughs, trying to formulate his thought correctly. He says she should be glad the hairpin was washed before being returned to the girl. The girl looks at her jewelry with surprise, while Rangaro remains awkwardly silent. He pulls a suitcase from somewhere and places it on the table, asking her to accept it too. Anne Rose looks at the contents with surprise, not expecting to see something like this at all. The same bag is in front of her, and the girl asks where the boy got it from. He asks her to consider this as compensation for what happened. The girl was used to constantly having things taken from her and couldn't believe she was getting them back now. Rangaro asks if the girl would rather receive money, and she says it is enough, because this means a lot to her. The boy says he has something else, which surprises the woman sitting opposite again. There is a beautiful envelope in front of Victoire, and he asks her to open it. The girl carefully examines the contents and realizes it is an invitation to the moon ball. Once a year, when the moon shines brightest, a masquerade ball is held by the sea. People hide their faces and dress the same so that everyone is equal, and they consider themselves worshippers of the sea goddess. It was an event where everyone danced in the hope that the wind and storm would stop, and that next year, the sea would be orderly with their ships. Usually, all the nobility are always invited to this event. Anne Rose felt that she was now truly considered a Kantian aristocrat. Rangaro says that the conditions for passing the test are the same as last time, and until the end of the ball, she must not let anyone know that she is actually a foreigner. The boy reports that since no one will see her face, people will only focus on her speech and behavior. However, he says he is confident that she will do well. The boy reports that she will be just as successful as in the first test. He adds that he has one more piece of news, but the girl has most likely already heard it from Marais. The boy reveals that Seonian will move to the Bodwin house for a while. It turns out Marais didn't say anything about that. but Victoire says she probably just forgot. Rangero reports that there are no special reasons, and at first His Majesty was going to stay with Duke Sullivan, but suddenly changed his mind. He says that, as the girl probably knows, Xionian is a rather complex person. Anne Rose couldn't believe she would live in the same place as His Majesty, but she had a feeling she would constantly be assessed. She assumed Xionian did this because of her. The doors open, and Edgar suddenly enters the room at Rangero's request. The boy says that Anne Rose received a rather important letter. Edgar suggests that the Moon Ball couple has finally arrived. He announces that he and Marise have already received their invitations. Rangero suddenly asks the boy who he is going to the ball with this year. Embarrassed, he repeats the question, clearly very worried and concerned. He says that, as usual, he will travel in the carriage with his sister. The boy jokingly invites Edgar to be his partner, and he immediately angrily refuses. Suddenly, indignant, he asks if Rangero is making fun of him. Marise asks her friend to lose weight because her dresses don't fit her anymore. Anne Rose says she doesn't think it's her fault. Her interlocutor asks why her brother is hostile since morning, and she suggests this might be related to Rangero. The girls wish each other good night and prepare to head to their rooms. Anne Rose enters her room and sees the servants finishing preparing her outfit. She chose a soft pink dress, following her friend's advice. It reminded her very much of what she had at her wedding. She wondered if there would be a wedding ceremony when Lyanka married Astor. Victoire imagined Lyanka in her wedding dress. Suddenly, she realized that after this, she would hardly be able to sleep at night. The girl changes clothes and walks to her bed, preparing to go to sleep. Suddenly, she sees Marise's alcohol in front of her, so she mentally thanks her friend. Anne Rose pours the drink into a glass and starts drinking slowly. The girl finishes the content and smiling looks at the almost empty glass. From behind, Xionian appears out of nowhere and observes that it looks delicious. He asks if the girl has given up the habit of wandering around at night. The guy says it was a mistake to place her in a family of vintners. He seriously asks the girl to sit down and not shake her head. Anne Rose obediently agrees and tries to find a chair in the darkness. The girl suddenly falls, misses the chair, and lands in the air. The boy immediately approaches her and asks her to open her eyes and helps her up. Victoire says she feels a little nauseous and doesn't know if it's because she drank too much or because she hit her head. He reminds her that he asked her to take care of her face and then asks how she can be so careless. The boy wonders why she is so eager to drink alcohol and if death alone was not enough for her. He adds that she should have left the past behind, but as he sees, her body is outraged. The girl reports that she felt incredibly happy to meet him when she almost died. She says she really tried to leave everything in the past, but the wounds of that life sometimes hurt, and she gets discouraged. Anne Rose explains that this is why she sometimes needs a little help. She promises she won't ruin everything by drinking alcohol, because she is actually trying to convince herself not to. Xianan looks at her seriously, listening very carefully. He admits that he has never been in the same situation, so he cannot understand it. The boy adds that, unlike those who give up over such small things, she decided to move forward, to the point that even the strict Baldwin family was impressed. She says that is why she does not doubt her true intentions. Xianan reports that, however pathetic it may seem, he trusts that, even without supervision, she will do her best. Having finished his thought, he invites the girl back to bed. Suddenly, he grabs her clothes and tells her he doesn't want to go back. The boy looks at her surprised, not fully understanding her reasons. He seriously asks her if she wants to drink a little more now. The girl, without thinking for a second about her answer, nods. Suddenly, she asks if the boy could have a drink with her. Morning arrives, and Anne Rose enjoys a deep sleep in the arms of His Highness. Suddenly, he wakes up and notices such a strange sight, surprised by what is happening. Anne Rose also wakes up, but he tells her she can keep sleeping. She thanks him for responding so generously to her rudeness yesterday, and thanks to him, she slept peacefully after a long time. The boy, irritated, asks if she compares him to sleeping pills. The girl says she wouldn't say that, and asks how a tool can think like that about its owner. She looks at the suddenly sad Xionian, surprised. Anne Rose asks if she said anything wrong, and the boy tells her to forget it. He gloomily asks if they are done for the day, before putting on his shirt and leaving. The boy leaves the girl perplexed and wondering what suddenly happened to him. Xionian walks nervously down the hall and meets his advisor on the way. Rangero wishes His Majesty good morning, to which he receives a rather dry response. He asks if everything is fine, but the boy says nothing special happened. The advisor looks inquisitively at the boy, not understanding anything at all. He suddenly decides to talk about what Seonian asks him to do. The boy asks if he can proceed with the plan. The day of the moon ball arrives, and Edgar, taking the opportunity, asks his girlfriend what she thinks about becoming his date at the ball. Anne Rose smiles shyly, looking at him and blushing. She replies to the boy with her consent, which makes him very happy. Suddenly, Maris bursts in and reports that the girl already has a date. She tells her brother that he can go to the ball with her as usual. The boy reports that he sees nothing wrong in changing everything this time. Edgar, smiling slightly, politely wishes his friend good night. He says he hopes she has a great time at the ball. Maris doesn't tell the girl anything about her partner, calling it a secret. Anne Rose puts on her mask and announces that she is ready. Maris confidently says the girl will succeed, as always. She enthusiastically says that everyone present at the ball will surely love her. The girl asks her friend to wait here, informing her that her partner will arrive soon. Anne Rose, left alone, wonders who her partner will be, assuming it will be Rangaro. She hears someone's voice, saying she is lost in her thoughts again. His Highness Seonian approaches her, greatly surprising the girl. She asks the boy, in a state of shock, what he is doing here. Seonian asks if she thinks he is not suitable as a partner, and she replies negatively. Ambrose understands that today's test is so important that His Highness himself is present in person. The boy politely asks the person opposite to take his hand. Victor looks at the outstretched palm, feeling some uncertainty. Nevertheless, the girl lightly places her small hand in his palm. Seonian points out that her dress is very eye-catching. Suddenly, Andros smiled mischievously and asked him if her dress had also caught his attention. The boy, deciding to respond in the same way, mockingly asks what will happen if he answers positively. They, holding hands, slowly enter the huge and luxurious hall. His Highness hands his partner a glass and tells her that thanks to it, she will be able to hide her flaws. The girl asks him, astonished, if he wants a drink, and Seonian reports that he does not drink. She, hesitantly, asks him if he cannot handle alcohol well. Victuarno stops her questioning, wondering if he really won't drink a glass. Only now does she realize why he didn't understand why she drinks so much. Because from his appearance alone, it was clear that he only drinks expensive wine. The girl suddenly admits to Seonian that before meeting him, she drank every day. She says she couldn't be sober, because alcohol immediately made her feel better. But over time, she started to suffer as the effect began to wear off. The boy realizes that she claims to be a good drinker, but yesterday she was in a terrible state from just one bottle. Anras quietly says it wasn't because of the alcohol. She suddenly admits that the boy intoxicates her more than alcohol. Seonian looks at her surprised, trying to digest what he heard. He suddenly starts laughing loudly, which puts his partner in an awkward situation. He quickly puts his glass on the table and tells her to leave already. Seonian admits that he hopes she can dance as well as she speaks with a Kantian accent. Andros, with a slight smile, asks him to see for himself. The guests whisper about how good they look together, while trying to guess their true personalities. They assume the girl is Lady Elizabeth, after which they comment that the boy is clearly an attentive person. Seonian asks why she smiles like that if she is being judged. The girl replies that she has no reason not to smile, because she is dancing with a wonderful boy in a beautiful dress. She then asks the boy about his dancing skills, and he says they are quite good. She looks away a little and suddenly notices her ex-husband, Astor. The guy is standing with his glass of wine, looking into the distance. Anne Rose presses against the man in front of her, trying to figure out what her ex-husband is doing here. Victor politely asks her partner if he would mind if they took a break. The boy calmly says he has absolutely no objection. She quickly heads to the first direction she finds, without saying a single word to Seonian. Anne Rose leaves the hallway into an aisle, thinking that her test will not be easy at all. She decides she should stop running, when suddenly someone grabs her arm. An astonished Astor appears in front of her, firmly grabbing the hand in front of him. He suddenly rips off her mask, revealing her previously hidden face. The boy's expression changes from surprised to more serious. People who managed to see this full sight immediately recognize the girl as Countess Victoire. Anne Rose indignantly asks what all this means. The boy silently diverts his serious gaze aside, becoming a little grim. She suddenly remembers that Seonian can change his appearance with Saul's blessing, and he has done it right in front of her, so she decides she needs to remain calm. The girl says she doesn't know the person opposite and then asks him to let her go. And Aster apologizes, returns the mask to her, and suddenly says he made a mistake. Anne Rose realizes she forgot about their peculiar meeting at the port. She realizes that since he is already engaged to Lyanka, he doesn't need to remember the noble girls. Victor suddenly hears a familiar melody and realizes that a waltz has begun. The boy suddenly turns to the newly caught girl standing in front of him. He asks to accept his apologies for his action, inviting her to dance. Aster says he would also like to explain the reason for his actions. The girl wonders confusedly if this is also a test for His Highness. She accepts the invitation of the boy in front of her to dance. It seemed to her that such a test was truly cruel. Aster points out that she is an excellent dancer, and then says that he once met a girl who danced just as well. She asks him if he mistook her for this particular girl. Suddenly, the boy admits that she reminds him of his ex-wife. Anne Rose, trying not to show her surprise too much, says that it would be unpleasant for a lady to hear such a thing from a boy. She realizes that there is nothing similar between her and Letitia, except for the color of their eyes, and then asks him if she was as beautiful as she is. Aster confidently replies that it is negative, smiling maliciously. He says that you were not a charming and sophisticated lady, and he doesn't know why he confused them. The girl mentally, sincerely apologizes to him for not being so charming and sophisticated. The boy suddenly says that she is not very interested in him, and Victoire reports that he already knows she is a foreigner, which surprises him greatly. She says it's noticeable in his accent, and then asks what brings him to Kant. Astor sadly reports that he came here for family business. Anne Rose assumes that the boy is dealing with the case with Olivia, and still doesn't know at all that she has anything to do with it. The boy asks the woman opposite him with interest for her name. Victoire invites him to leave himself as a pleasant memory of the moon ball. She says she is not asking his name for impure reasons, because at least he is engaged. The girl points out that she was very lucky and managed to convince him to remarry after a failed marriage. Aster says he thinks the same, because after meeting her his eyes opened, because then he felt that this was true love. Anne Rose suddenly tells him that this would greatly annoy his ex-wife. She decides that all this should be enough to pass the test. The girl starts to leave, but he politely asks her to wait. Victoire turns around trying to find out what else he wants to say. Aster suddenly says he needs help regarding his fiancée. He reports that his wife will arrive in Kant soon, but he has to leave for business. And his presence at today's ball is also part of this business. The boy says that judging by the atmosphere, Kant is not very different from his homeland. Aster reports that despite this, he is still worried about his wife. He says that she is a very kind person, so he doesn't want to leave her alone in a strange place. Antros asks him if he wants him and his fiancée to become friends, and he says no. He says he cannot ask for such a thing because they don't even know each other. The boy says he would just like to ask her for advice, since she is from Kant. Aster says his wife will need someone to guide her, and then asks the girl to recommend someone to him. Victoire suddenly says that his fiancée must still be young. She mockingly asks if the girl is 7 years old, since he wants to hire a nanny for her. The boy seriously says that his fiancée is already an adult girl. He tells her that she is pure and naive and doesn't know how the world works, and that he just wants someone to look after her. Andros says that she finds it strange that an adult man needs someone to accompany him, and then suggests that she has already caused him a lot of trouble. He even looks at the floor, getting more irritated every second. He suddenly menacingly says that he is simply worried about his wife. The boy assumes that he knows how easy it is to make a mistake when you are not familiar with the customs and the culture of another state. Anne Rose says it's not difficult if you're careful, and then asks if he has heard about the thief in another state. She says that Kant is famous for trade, so theft here is a serious crime. The girl mockingly asks what kind of careless foreigner would steal someone's things. She says that not even a 6-year-old child would dare to do such a thing in Kant. Aster, without saying anything about what he heard, simply politely asks her to respond to his request. Andros points the boy towards Edgar and asks what's up with him. She says that he is a member of one of the oldest families in Kant, the Bodwin Goff, and that he has a sister, so he knows how to communicate with girls. The girl reports that she is sure he will take excellent care of his fiancée. The boy apologizes and says he understands all the advantages, but he is not satisfied with the gender. Victoire asks what the problem is, if at most they become friends. He suddenly wonders if he comes from Northland, which is his homeland. The girl reports that she heard that people there are conservative, but she didn't think they were that conservative. Aster suddenly turns around and then starts examining those present. He suddenly points at someone and asks for the red-haired girl. Anne Rose says this is Maryse Baldwin, Edgar's sister. The boy wonders why she didn't advise him immediately, after which he suddenly sees Maryse hitting the man opposite him with all her might. He looks at her in shock, apologizing and saying that he seems to have figured it out himself. Victoire apologizes and says it is difficult for her to advise someone immediately, because in Kant, many times one does not need to take care of someone. She says that Kantians are used to taking care of themselves as they grow up. The girl turns around and slowly walks towards the exit, leaving Aster. Suddenly, he takes her hand and politely asks her to wait and not leave. The boy says that he doesn't know a better candidate than her, and that he doesn't have the audacity to ask her to be with his fiancée all the time. But he asks her to stay with him for a little while when she arrives. He seriously promises that he will definitely thank the girl. Anne Rose, smiling slightly, says that it seems she has no other choice. The girl leaves and realizes that he doesn't even know who she is, but he wants her to look after Lyanka. Before, she always trembled with fear at just seeing him. She thinks about refusing him, but realizes that this will be the cornerstone of her revenge. Suddenly, Anne Rose notices not far away the same cat she had seen before. He cheerfully approaches her, while she wonders what the cat is doing here. The animal jumps onto her lap, and the girl decides that, after all, it is not Duchess Sullivan's cat. She strokes the animal behind the ear and says it is adorable. Anne Rose kisses the cat's forehead and thanks it, saying she feels a little better. The animal suddenly seems to remember something and quickly runs away somewhere. Time passes, and the cat lazily scratches someone's door. Suddenly, Seonian asks the animal how long it will remain in this form. The cat suddenly asks how he can be so rude to such a competent subordinate. The boy, who suddenly transformed into Rangaro, says he knows very well that he can reincarnate at any time. The boy says that his usual job is one thing, but spying is completely different. And then he asks him to at least be kind. Rangaro, slightly frowning, tries to wipe off someone else's lipstick from his forehead. The guy opposite suddenly draws the advisor's attention and decides to summarize the results. He asks with interest if Anne Rose cried again. Rangaro reports that she only looked a little upset, but did not cry. He says the girl did an excellent job on her test. Seonian, angry, asks him where he was with her disguised as a cat. Rangaro suddenly says that he suddenly turned out to be crazy about animals. The boy asks him to stop talking nonsense and just announce the results. The advisor reports that Victoire handled the Kantian dances perfectly, and when Aster appeared, she didn't bat an eye. Time passes, and Anne Rose is already standing excitedly in front of His Highness. She asks him if he called her to verify the received information. He confirms, and the girl wonders why she got up so early. Anne Rose decided she wanted to talk about what happened at the ball. She also admits the possibility that he simply wants to announce the test results. The boy suddenly starts saying something, catching the absent-minded interlocutor's attention. He suddenly says he loves dogs more than cats. The girl looks at him inquisitively, not understanding what he is talking about. The boy suddenly asks which of them he likes more. Victoire excitedly replies that she prefers cats. She loudly suggests that this is also some kind of test or part of it. Ksenian says this is incredible as he slowly heads somewhere. Anne Rose did not understand why he was acting that way if he did not mean any of it. She looks at the clock and abruptly asks one of the maids how long until the first ship arrives at the port. The maid says that if you get on the carriage right after breakfast, you will be able to make it on time. Victoire looks at the ship in front of her and realizes that Lyanka must be sailing on one of them. People start slowly leaving the ship, and the girl realizes she doesn't see the person she needs. The time and the name of the ship were those Aster gave her at the ball. The girl approaches one of the boys from the ship and apologizes. She says she is looking for a passenger named Lyanka Snowder, and that she has been asked to meet her, but she cannot find her. The boy reports that she canceled the trip right before departure. She asks for the reason for the cancellation, but he says he doesn't know. The boy says that probably she herself understands that aristocrats are very fickle. Anne Rose couldn't believe Lyanka hadn't arrived and didn't know when she would arrive. She didn't know whether to visit Aster to inform him of this. Victoire suddenly pays attention to a passing boy. She recognizes him as the butler of the Snowder family, whose name was Michel. The girl didn't understand what he was doing here without Lyanka, so she decided to follow him to find out. On the way, two women greet her wishing her good day. Fortunately, Anne Rose understood that this was the Marquis's territory, so if she followed the butler, she wouldn't arouse suspicion. She slowly follows Michel, hiding behind every corner. The girl suddenly realizes that the boy quickly enters the cafe. Victoire, in a bit of a hurry, buys a hat in the first shop she finds. She enters the same cafe where the boy entered, looking for him. Finally, the girl finds Michel sitting at the side table. Anne Rose asks the waitress, who recognizes her, to bring her the same dessert as last time. She sincerely hopes they won't notice her from a distance. Suddenly, a man sitting opposite the butler shouts that he promised to bring her. Victoire looks at their table, surprised, trying to recognize the hooded man. It turns out to be Olivia, and she asks the boy why he came without Lyanka. Anne Rose doesn't understand what the girl is doing here, if she is supposed to be in custody after what happened at the tea party. She also couldn't understand why she was communicating with the butler of the Snowder family. Michel, smiling slightly, apologizes to the woman sitting opposite him. He reports that Lyanka couldn't come due to a sudden matter, but that she can tell everything to him. His loyal servant, Olivia, says that nothing will change if she talks to some servant. He promises that he will try to do everything possible for his lover, and she screams that she doesn't need attempts, but results. The boy says that she probably knows the answers to her questions herself. According to reports, Karl Harshman does not find it easy to face such a situation. Anne Rose is very surprised when she hears about Duke Harshman. Karl's image appears before her eyes, and the girl tries to understand if it is the person they are talking about. Olivia asks him why he cannot bring Robin, no matter how busy he is. Michel says that, as she knows, Lord Robin is very extravagant. She explains that is why he doesn't even trust Harshman enough. The butler says it will be difficult to convince him to go to another country without a good reason. The girl tells him to have him sign the contract if necessary, because they promised to bring him. Michel says that Lyanka is trying to do this, and the woman sitting opposite says she doesn't care, and that she cannot wait any longer. Olivia says she thought Lyanka would understand the situation. She says that, after all, Lyanka is her brother's fiancé. The girl reports that she cannot help but think that she is in a similar situation. Anne Rose understands that she does not admit that the relationship with Lyanka was adultery, but the rest is true. Olivia says she has been crazy since her last encounter with Robin and misses him very much, but now she has to leave Kant as soon as possible. She asks the boy if he means to tell her that she won't be able to see him even once. The girl says that he probably understands that she will not leave things as they are if he and Lyanka do not keep their word. Suddenly she asks if the boy has forgotten about their agreement. Olivia says that if they don't give her what she wants, she will tell everything Lyanka is hiding. Michel looks at her, and his face simultaneously expresses many incomprehensible emotions. He sighs, trying to calm down, and then turns to the woman sitting opposite. The boy says that Robin has already been offered many options, so if he still felt something for her, he would have returned a long time ago. He adds that if Lord Robin wanted to cooperate, he would already be here. Olivia, stunned, asks him if he means to tell her that Robin refused to meet her. Michel, smiling slightly, says the girl understood everything correctly. The girl suddenly shouts loudly that this is not possible. She says Robin couldn't do that to her. Olivia says that something happened at the time of departure, when they said goodbye in front of the house. He then firmly promised her that he would definitely come to her. Michel asks her if she tried to contact him at that time. Olivia says they are in another country, and he doesn't even know her whereabouts. But the boy refutes it by asking her how many times she thinks he had to find out her location. The girl says this is definitely because of Harshin, and is sure that Robin wants to see her. She reveals that she knows he would come immediately if he could, and then asks them to help Robin with this. Michel suddenly says that Robin's wife, Lisa, recently gave birth to a child. Olivia asks what if he doesn't love her anyway, and that's why he fell in love with her. The boy reports that, surprisingly, it turned out that Robin is a wonderful father. He says that as soon as his daughter was born, he abandoned his adventures with unknown women and stopped visiting all adult entertainment establishments. Olivia asks what adult entertainment establishments are, and the boy is surprised to realize she didn't know. Michel reports that Robin used to visit similar establishments twice a week. Even with her, the boy says he heard that he was afraid that his karma would affect his daughter, so he made a large donation to the church to atone for his sins. He concludes by saying that this is why it has been difficult to contact Robin since then. Olivia recalls calling Letitia pathetic when Aster left her. Then the girl said it was better to die than to live like that. She suddenly starts shouting at the entire establishment that all this is a lie. Olivia throws her drink on the floor and screams that Robin told her he was going to divorce his wife and promised to marry her. The girl, still not believing anything, says she needs proof. She promises that in this case, having seen everything with her own eyes, she will give up. Michelle seriously asks if this is all that is required of him. Olivia says that if he lies or cannot provide her with proof, he should prepare to be punished. Anne Rose looks disdainfully after the girl, who was recently shouting, has left. She turns around and looks at Michelle, who is getting ready. The boy slowly gets up from the table, preparing to follow his recent interlocutor. Anne Rose regretted never managing to find out anything about Lyanka. Suddenly, Michelle approaches the girl from behind and asks if she enjoyed eavesdropping. He asks the girl if she followed him from the port, and then says he doesn't mind a charming beauty following him, but that she shouldn't do it this time. The girl looks surprised into the distance, trying to think of something on the fly. The boy politely asks her not to ignore his questions and to answer. He asks the girl with interest who she is. Michelle, without stopping bombarding her with questions, he asks what she needs. Anne Rose says she seems to have misunderstood and feels bad because he thought she was harassing him. She reports that there is a direct road from the port, so it is natural that they went in one direction. The girl assures him that she really made a mistake and confused something. The boy suddenly says that he definitely saw her looking at him while buying this huge hat. He recalls how he felt her gaze on him and even looked back sometimes. Michelle tells the girl that she covered her face with her headwear and sat nearby to listen intently to their conversation. Andros reiterates that she was not eavesdropping and explains that she simply heard a noise coming from their table, and she wondered what had happened. She says that if they wanted no one to know about them, then they shouldn't have made so much noise. The girl gets up from the table, trying to get rid of the dialogue with him, but he abruptly realizes that she is strange. Michelle suddenly approaches her again and tells her that something is wrong with her, and that it is difficult to realize. He turns his head towards him and examines her attentively. Suddenly, Seonian snatches her from his hands and pulls her to him. He apologizes to the girl for making her wait. Anne Rose looks at her savior surprised, still feeling lingering fear. She realizes that the boy reappeared at the most opportune moment. The girl asks him why he arrived so late, and he says he had something to do. Anne Rose suddenly smiles and says she even likes waiting for him. His Highness looks at her surprised, amazed by such a sudden mood swing. She feels a little awkward when she sees his expression. She says she missed him a lot in the last few hours. Seonian suddenly approaches her and tells her that if he were in her place, he would be very angry with himself. The boy puts his arms around her waist, and the girl understands that only royal couples do this. He assumes that the girl is already quite angry with him for being late. Michelle, having not moved anything during all this time, looks at them in shock. He slowly walks towards the exit, looking back from time to time. They are still embracing in front of everyone, waiting for the boy to leave completely. Anne Rose, hypnotized by the moment, wants to tell the boy something. She suddenly decides to bring up that boy, which immediately brings the girl back to reality. If Onion tells her that it is dangerous and that she should not approach him, the girl asks surprised in what sense Michelle is dangerous. He says that the guy had a strange expression on his face and that he is not joking, and Victoire asks him if he senses dangerous people. The boy points to the wound he received about a year ago. He says that the butler must have felt the energy emanating from her. Seonian reports that she causes a very unpleasant feeling that not even his magic can hide, and only those connected to the girl know about it. She brings her hand to her chest, bewildered, and fixes her gaze on the floor. Anne Ross suddenly decides that in this case, Michelle was also involved in her death. She didn't understand at all why he would want her dead. Lyanka had a motive because she wanted to be with Aster, but Mitchell was just Lyanka's butler. Seonian says that the assistant of the woman who killed her left Northland and came here, so at least she won't have to postpone a question any longer. The boy suddenly says that they need to leave Kant urgently. Victoire says she hasn't heard the results of the second test yet. He reports that she passed it a long time ago and that the results were known immediately after the end of the ball. The girl looks down sadly, which raises some questions from His Highness. She asks if she will have the opportunity to say goodbye to Mariz and Edgar. Anne Rose says that they were the ones who taught her to be a real Kantian girl. She looks at him inquisitively, waiting to hear an answer. Seonian gives her exactly 3 weeks to say goodbye. He seriously says that this period should be enough for her. The girl takes his hand, satisfied with the answer she heard. Anne Rose sincerely thanks His Highness for his understanding. Ksenian, satisfied with the reaction, says it's just nothing. Marais complains that 3 weeks is very short, because she has already grown fond of her friend. Rangero happily says that they already understood that Anne Rose would leave someday, because she was preparing for her revenge here. The girl reports that if it weren't for her duty to His Highness, she would have refused. She says it's quite good that Marais remembers it. The boy says that she empathized with her, because she also has problems with her family. And she says that she almost lost the family fortune because of her aunt. She says that if it weren't for Seonian, she would have handed over control of the family to her aunt. Rangero reports that she, in the end, turned out to be a clever swindler. The girl shares that her aunt used foreign ARC certificates and forged letters from her mother to trick them, and that they were too young to catch her. The boy reports that His Highness was able to prove to them that she faked everything. He says that he also took care of Edgar until he could live alone, so they shouldn't be angry about Anne Rose. Maries silently looks at her glass. Sadness can easily be read on her face. She says she already knows that it will be better for her friend. Rangero happily says that he is glad to hear these words from her. He says that Anne Rose has been through a lot, so she feels much older than her age. The boy reports that she still looks like a girl when she forgets everything and smiles sincerely. He says that if you compare her to a flower, she reminds him of the moon flower. Marais suddenly realizes that if she starts feeling something indecent towards Anne Rose, then she shouldn't even think about it. She says she shouldn't go out with a fox like him because he will only hurt her. Rangero slyly points out that he is a cat, not a fox, and the girl, angry, says it doesn't matter. The boy smiles kindly, as if touched by Mari's reaction. He suddenly says he would like to ask the person sitting opposite him something. Rangero asks her what she thinks about His Highness's plan. He explains that he means the people involved, like Andros. The girl says that in this case it is not worth asking her, but His Highness himself. She puts her glass on the table and announces that it is her turn now. Maris suddenly asks the person sitting opposite him what he thinks about Andros. She asks him if he thinks Seonian will consider her an ordinary person. The girl suddenly continues with her question, wondering if her friend will just be another tool. A dissatisfied voice comes from the carriage and asks how much time they have left. Andros says that it seems her friend is going to a funeral instead of a ball, and he says that they haven't finished everything yet, so he asks her to stay. The girl says that Marais would only be happy if she stayed for 40 years, and asks for at least 39. Victoire, smiling slightly, asks her friend to stop and she backs off. Marais suddenly asks why she thinks the party organizer changed his mind about the theme of the event. Originally, it was supposed to be a ball, but it turned out to be a wine tasting, and their new product was called moon wine. The girl assumes that the alcohol will taste like moon cake, which she doesn't like, but will have to pretend she likes it, because there will be a lot of people there. Anne Rose points out that she is a famous businesswoman, and there is nothing to be done about it. In Kant, it is always money that matters, not origin. In this duchy, capitalism rules and governs the social system. That is why theft is considered a serious crime here. Olivia should not have arrived in the Kant duchy with such confidence. The familiar silhouettes of Lyanka and Esther slowly emerged in her head. They were followed by her ex-parents-in-law and all of Esther's relatives. Andros couldn't wait to return to Northland and start taking revenge, and although she feels ashamed in front of her friends, her desire is stronger than the bitterness of separation. Marais, noticing that her friend is again in the clouds, asks her not to make that face. She reports that Victoire will be with her today. Anne Rose looks vaguely into the distance and says this is good. People gradually begin to gather in the hall, chatting and drinking. Anne Rose communicates with strangers and makes new friends. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls her, snatching her from the dialogue. Edgar approaches the girl and asks if she would like to dance with him. Victoire immediately agrees and offers to go. As long as there is still space in the hall, the boy suddenly turns red, which confuses her greatly. The girl asks him if he is sick, because his face is very red, and he says it's nonsense. Upon approaching the chosen spot, they tell each other they are happy to dance together. Edgar says he should have asked the girl out sooner. Andros felt as if she had returned to a time before her marriage. She remembered exchanging small flirtatious phrases, with strangers and laughing at silly things. The girl hadn't felt anything like this for a long time. Suddenly, a girl flies in towards him with a small scream. She apologizes and asks if Anne Rose is okay. The girl says she is very sorry for what just happened. She asks if the person opposite turned out to be hurt because of her. Victoire looks closely at the man's face and reluctantly realizes that it is Lyanka. The girl decides she is hallucinating and only imagining things. She also assumes that the alcohol is affecting her this way and that she is too drunk. Suddenly, she hears the woman's voice again, asking if she is okay. Anne Rose says she is fine and was just a little surprised. She says it's the first time she's seen someone like that and can't, so she asks him to be careful. Suddenly, Lyanka tells her to look at her dress, and she realizes it is dirty. She apologizes and says it wasn't her intention. Then she asks her to accompany her. Victoire says everything is fine, trying to break free from the grip of the person opposite her. She says she will take care of this herself and asks him to leave her and her. Suddenly, a girl approaches them and asks if they can step aside. She says that if they stand like that, they will interfere with everyone's dancing. Lyanka lets go of the woman opposite her and asks her to wait a minute. She enthusiastically tells Anne Rose not to go anywhere. The girl runs away quickly towards who knows where and how far, leaving Victoire alone. Anne Rose doesn't understand what Lyanka is doing here and then assumes this is also a test. She suddenly realizes that she was told she had already passed all the tests. She already had to deal with Aster and Olivia, so she saw no need to drag Lyanka in too. Besides, Sionian himself told her to stay away from her and her butler. She wondered if Aster and Michelle would also attend this ball. She suddenly realizes that Karl Harshman, Lisa's father, is nearby. Suddenly, she realizes that someone is looking at him and calls Anne Rose. The man says he would like to ask the girl something. Victor points out that it is quite rude to communicate with a lady so informally. She says that at least that's how things are here in Kant. She then assumes that he is not local. In Northland, the status of men is much higher than that of women. Unlike Kant, to such a powerful man, a woman is just an insignificant insect. Karl says that if this is the custom in Kant, then he will have to follow the customs. After which he sincerely apologizes for his rudeness. This man differed from most older men in Northland in that he admitted his mistakes. Harshman introduces himself and says that he is actually from afar, so he apologizes if he makes mistakes. Anne Rose says everything is fine, then thanks him for his apologies and introduces herself. The man reports that he is looking for the company of some people here. He says that, to be more precise, he is looking for a girl with pink eyes and blue hair. The man asks her if she has seen anyone like that here. Anne Rose assumes he is talking about Lyanka having bribed her son, presumably to get Olivia out. She says she thinks she has seen someone like that here. The girl points in the right direction and says she went there. The man looks in the indicated direction and asks her if she means the bar. He notices that it is difficult to find someone in such a crowd, and the girl asks him if he needs help. Karl doesn't exactly understand how he can help and asks her to wait a moment. The girl approaches a waiter and tells him he is doing a good job. She asks him to find her a seat at the bar, and the boy leads her to the right place. Hartzman approaches his new acquaintance and assumes that she is an important person in Kant. Anne Rose says she only has a couple of acquaintances, and the man points out that good people attract their own kind. The girl, a little subdued, suddenly says she is not sure she can agree with this. Victoire tells him that if she wanders around it will be even harder to find him, so she asks him to wait at the bar. She calls the waiter and asks him to bring her 2 glasses. Suddenly, the girl whispers to the boy to bring her more undiluted alcohol. Andros tells the man that if someone suddenly sees Lyanka, he will take her away. Hartzman looks at the waiter and asks if he has a new drink in his hand. He then says he heard that a lot of people want to try it. She says it is the newest product from Bodwin Winery, and the man reveals that he has tasted their drinks. He reports that they know very well, but their drinks are too strong for him. And the girl realizes that this one is not so strong, and she will drink with him. Karl asks him if he needs anything from him, after which he says he will be lucky if he drinks. And doesn't collapse. Anne Ross suddenly says cryptically that no one knows the answer to her question. She pours him a drink and tells him they should see what happens next. Half an hour passes and Harshman is still almost slumped over the table, exhausted. He asks when Lyanka will come, and the girl says it will take time to find her. Victoire says she can go home, and she will call him carriage. Karl, covering his face with his hands, says he cannot leave. He says he came all the way here to catch the thief. Anne Ross tells him that recently there was also confusion in Kant because of a thief. She says that a foreign girl invited to a tea party stole several things from other guests, and they immediately searched her and found the stolen items in her dress. The man, interested in the story he heard, asks her to describe the thief. Victoire says it was a green-haired girl from Northland. Harshman looks at her surprised when he hears the man's description. The girl suddenly wonders if she might have lost something if she is looking for the thief. Carl, taking another glass of alcohol, agrees. The man seriously says that he has lost his daughter's honor. He says he cannot believe that even abroad the female thief cannot control herself. Harshman says he only came here to catch her. The man reports that she tried to seduce his daughter's husband. He says that even if he doesn't like him as a son-in-law, his daughter chose him. The boy cheated on her with several girls, including this thief, and in the end she left the empire. Carl menacingly asks how she dared to come to Kant and cause trouble here. The girl asks him how he knew the thief was here, and he informs her that he heard it from a friend. He says that if he returns empty-handed, it will surely affect his daughter's future. The man rests his head on the table and mumbles that he must catch the thief. Victoire had long known that Lyanka had betrayed Olivia. She assumed that Olivia would not stand idly by and would try to find out her secret. That's why Lyanka quickly got in touch with Carl Harshman. She must have told him about her whereabouts and what she was capable of. And all this was done so that Carl would take care of Olivia. Anne Rose, having understood Lyanka's pattern of action, tries to decide what she should do next. She could sit back and watch the enemies fight, but their differences in strength are too obvious. The girl understood that Olivia definitely wouldn't last long. Victoire approaches the finally found girl and realizes that she still doesn't know her weaknesses. But if she remains inactive, she will get rid of Olivia before her. Lyanka pitifully reports that she has been looking for her all this time. Anne Rose decides that she needs to take the opportunity to help get rid of the thief and to be able to know more about the girl. She says she stepped away because the manager needed to talk to her. Snowder is surprised and asks if she is really such an influential person here. Victoire reveals that this event was organized by one of her relatives. She decides she should consider her a good ally. Lyanka says it's wonderful and that she has never attended such a large-scale event before. She reports that she cannot believe her new friend is involved in this. The girl suddenly remembers that she never introduced herself. She reveals that her name is Lyanka Snowder and she comes from Northland. Anne Rose realizes that if they get closer and start spending time together, someday she will definitely have the opportunity to take revenge. She asks if she is the same Lyanka and then says she is delighted to meet her. Snowder asks her surprised if she knew her before. Victoire confirms and then asks if she is Astor's fiancé. She reveals that her husband asked her to take care of the girl. Lyanka says that their ship was delayed and they couldn't meet up with him. She reports that it is quite difficult to communicate across borders, so she did not expect to hear anything about him. Anne Rose says that, in fact, she should also reintroduce herself. She kindly introduces herself as Anne Rose Victoire. Snowder says they met by chance, but hopes they can become friends. He gently takes his friend's hand and tells her that since their friendship has already begun, why don't they go wash the stain off her dress? Victoire gently pulls her hand away from the strangers and reports that someone is looking for the girl. She quickly explains that it is a tall man in his early 50s. The girl adds that his name is Carl Harshman and then asks if they know each other. Lyanka, excited and scared at the same time, looks at the floor. She suddenly answers in the affirmative and says they arrived together. The girl nervously says that she thought she wouldn't find him, so she decided to just enjoy the event. She reports that it seems that thanks to her friend they will meet. Anne Rose realizes that apparently not everything is going according to her interlocutor's plan, after which she says she is glad they are found. She asks the girl to follow her to approach the man. Lyanka silently makes a malicious smile, clearly plotting something. She enthusiastically agrees and is already preparing to leave. On the way, Snow Whiter wonders how many people the girl knows here, as she is very influential. Anne Rose notices that she addressed her by name, after which she wonders when she gave permission to call her that way. Lyanka asks if she has seen a girl with green hair and golden eyes dressed impressively. Victoire is not at all surprised to want to meet Olivia. She says she is not sure because there are many people here. They continue walking in silence, and Anne Rose notices that her interlocutor is very annoyed. She invites her to Ayr to look together, which pleases her greatly. Lyanka begins to say that she is only happy when suddenly someone grabs her by the neck. A green-haired girl appears behind her, holding a knife almost to her throat. Unrose asks in shock what is happening here. The girl strictly orders Lyanka to shut up and follow her. She threateningly reports that sound, and she will cut her throat. Victoire continues to stare stupefied at the man who has appeared. She suddenly realizes that it is Olivia Winchester herself. The girl tells her to leave and not try to follow them. Anne Rose could not believe that something like this was happening, and there was not a single soul nearby. She assumed that everyone had already finished drinking and left the bar. Lyanka fearfully asks her captor why she is doing this. She reminds her that they are friends, and then asks if that is not true. Olivia wonders how she lies after betraying her. Snowder reveals that she has been looking for her all this time to fulfill her promise. Winchester menacingly asks why she brought Lord Harshban with her. Lyanka, hearing this, looks away fearfully, trying to think of something. She says it is a coincidence and that she came to help, so there is no need to try to hurt her. Olivia, smiling nervously, says she is a big liar. Suddenly, Anne Rose asks the thief to let her friend go. She says she doesn't know the motives for her actions, but still offers to fix everything by talking. Olivia suddenly asks if anyone overheard her when she complained about the injustice of her accusation at the tea party. Victoire doesn't understand what injustice she is talking about, since she definitely stole from others. Olivia shouts at the girl to shut up because she has no time to talk to her. She casually throws her captive to the ground, followed by a painful scream. Winchester leans down to Lyanka and puts the knife to her throat again. She tells her to immediately tell her butler to bring all her money and jewelry and not say a word about her. Snowy there suddenly reveals that Robin no longer wants anything to do with her. Olivia angrily shouts at her that she is a liar and only wants to separate them. The lying woman swears it's not like that, after which she says she tried to convince him several times, but it was impossible because he doesn't like her. Winchester says she would have believed it, but only if she hadn't appeared today with Harshman. She rushes Lyanka and begins to tell her that if she doesn't do as she says, her throat will be cut. Suddenly, Olivia's hand, holding a knife, is grabbed by another person's hand. The butler of the Snowder family appears out of nowhere, stopping his lover's threat. He enthusiastically asks the surprised Lyanka if she is all right. Anne Rose stares, dumbfounded at Michelle, who has appeared, clearly not expecting something like this. During all this time, the captive girl suddenly runs into his arms. Lyanka starts crying and says that if it weren't for her friend, she would probably have died already. Victoire asks her if she is very sure, after which she reports that she is safe now. She understands that it would be better for Olivia to deal with Lyanka instead of her, but that wouldn't be enough. The girl thinks she would rather do it herself. Suddenly, a woman's scream is heard, making everyone look in the direction of the sound they heard. Suddenly, the girls see Michelle stabbing the thief with her own knife. Anne Rose's eyes widen when she sees this nightmare in front of her. Olivia suddenly starts bleeding from her mouth and falls unconscious on the floor. Both girls nearby watch what happened in a state of shock. Lyanka suddenly starts angrily shouting at her butler. She asks him why the hell he did this, and he says that since Olivia threatened her, then she should die. Michelle carefully says that he did it for his lover. She enthusiastically says that he shouldn't have done this, and the boy reports that he is sure this is exactly what was asked of him. He says that the girl wanted to get rid of her threat. Anne Rose suddenly realizes that he did this to keep Lyanka's secret. The frightened girl suddenly runs to her new friend. She asks how murderers are judged in Kant, and what punishment Michelle will receive if a trial is held. Victoire reports that Lyanka will be able to escape punishment by saying it was self-defense. But Michelle will not succeed and will definitely be sentenced to death because he killed the aristocrat. The frightened girl asks if there is any way out. Anne Rose, without answering her question, says she is very sorry. Suddenly, Lyanka, starting to cry even more, asks her for help. She reveals that she is an illegitimate daughter who had to survive and make her way in the Snowder family, and that only Michelle was present, so he is like family to her. The girl says that she doesn't want to lose her family again, after which she asks for his help again. Anne Rose doesn't understand why she is so worried about a butler, because there are no easy ways to protect him after committing a crime. She reports that if someone reports what happened, nothing can be resolved. This would be a great opportunity for her, so the girl says she doesn't think it's worth losing a family member to a criminal. Victoire says she will try to help her resolve everything as quietly as possible with the help of her family's influence. She sweetly asks the girl if she understands her now. This was a great opportunity for her to make her consider her a friend. Anne Rose asks her to promise that even if things don't go as planned, she won't drag her into it. Lyanka agrees and says she will pretend the girl wasn't here. They throw the barrel into the water, and the girl thanks her friend for her help. Victoire sadly watches the barrel sink further and further. She reminds him that he already talked about how her fiancé asked him to take care of her. Anne Rose tells the people behind her that they can walk, and that she will catch up with them soon. Lyanka excitedly goes somewhere with her butler. Victoire didn't regret Olivia Winchester's death at all. However, she was a little scared when she realized that this was only the first step of her revenge. Suddenly, from behind, she hears a painfully familiar male voice. Seonian approaches her and tells her that he heard there was something like an attack against her. He worriedly asks her if she is hurt as he approaches. The girl turns around, continues staring at the sea, and leaves the question ignored. Seonian finally approaches her and asks her why she is silent. He hugs her and tells her not to worry. She suddenly admits that she is actually quite scared. The boy asks her what exactly she means by this now. Anne Rose says that she didn't kill Olivia, but put her body in a barrel and threw it into the sea, which helped cover up the murder. She asks why she doesn't feel anything if she put her body in a barrel, so it wouldn't float when the corpse started to decompose and emit gas, and even covered it with sand to make sure it stayed at the bottom. The girl says she doesn't feel anything, just like the rest of the Winchester family. And Lyanka, even knowing she shouldn't worry, she is just giving back all the evil they did to her. Seonian seems uninterested and asks what she gained from this. A tear falls from Victoire's face, and she says she is afraid of becoming a terrible monster like them. He hugs her tighter and tells her not to worry about anything. The boy wipes the tears from her cheeks and tells her that she will never be the same. She asks him how he can be so sure about that. Seonian says that sometimes he forced her to surpass herself, but she never lost determination or gave up her views. The girl says that he is expected to talk like that because they pursue the same goal. He asks her not to think that she will become a monster like them, because if she cannot take revenge on them due to her fear, he will become a monster and bite their heads off. Suddenly, she asks if this means he is doing everything just for their agreement. The boy, smiling, says that the agreement has become something more personal for him. The girl says that sometimes she doesn't understand him at all, and he informs her that this is because she only considers him a sleeping pill. Suddenly, he says that if she ever needs anything, he should be the first person she thinks of. Anne Rose asks what he will do if the person he invested so much in fails. Seonian, kissing her, says he will still love her. Harshman, who is already at the port, says he regrets that they had so little time to talk and get closer, and the girl reports that she doesn't think she can be friends with someone who gets drunk so fast. Carl apologizes, saying he just drank too fast. He, suddenly remembering something, turns to Lyanka, wanting to say something. The man asks her if she is sure she won't go with them. The girl says she wants to stay a while. He tells her that he understands her, so he decides not to ask about such things again. Hartzman wonders if the task is completed, so he can return home with peace of mind. Ambrose reveals that Olivia has decided to move and will never see Robin again. The man says he didn't know she was so good at convincing people. Victoire decides that getting rid of people in Northland is called persuasion. Lyanka says she is glad Olivia decided to listen to her. She asks the man if he could hide the deceased's crime as carefully as possible. The girl says that Olivia left her a letter, after which she asks her interlocutor to show it to her son-in-law. She promises that if the letter is not enough, she will explain everything upon her return. Carl says that thanks to her he can be at ease, so he entrusts the rest to her. Lyanka kindly thanks her interlocutor for her trust. Suddenly, she takes her new friend's hand and tells her that she has something else to say. She unexpectedly says that she wanted to say that Andros helped her a lot. The girl says that she even helped Olivia choose the best ship to set sail. Victoire remembers that the girl promised not to involve her in this. She was scared to have decided to break that promise so soon. Lyanka, smiling, tells her friend that she wants to praise her. She, very cheekily, asks the indignant girl not to be ashamed. Carl says he could stay longer, but it seems a new life will begin as soon as she boards. Andrew tells himself that he is glad to hear that and is delighted to meet her. The man asks her to come to Northland anytime, and he will definitely protect her. He leaves, and the person next to him suddenly thanks her friend. Lyanka says it went so well that even several days later, the body was not discovered. Victoire suddenly announces that she no longer wants to do anything similar. That day, Edgar told me how to do everything, and it turned out perfect. He told her to make sure to fill the barrel with sand so that the corpse would drown. The guy said that otherwise, when the body starts to decompose, the barrel will fill with gas. And it will float. Then Anne Rose suddenly asked him how he knew all this, and he said that before starting to work in the family business, they needed to solve a variety of problems. Suddenly, Victoire asks what business her friend has left in Kant. Lyanka says she would like to buy gifts, and that is one of the reasons she comes here. Her interlocutor asks who they are for, and she replies that they are for her fiancé and his relatives. Anne Rose remembers standing in front of her husband's mother like Letitia. She stands there annoyed, watching her gift being thrown on the floor. Clarissa haughtily asks if this is all she can do. The girl unexpectedly tells Alyosha that this is quite a trivial choice. She suddenly tells her friend not to pay attention to him, after which she assumes he will probably spend money. Snowwither suddenly hesitantly says that this will probably happen. Anne Rose tells her she hopes to have a good time shopping. Her interlocutor thanks her for helping her keep the secret. Victoire suddenly asks her what she means. She, smiling, relates that she doesn't remember anything having happened between them. Lyanka smiles and understands what her friend means. A girl, sitting on the Bodwin estate, sees a house of cards built in front of her. She asks what she should do looking at her cards. She suddenly says it's good to have a whole bob, and then puts a couple of pieces on the table. Edgar reports that at some point, he thought he would win. He says he's even good at card games, and the girl notices he drinks better. Anne Rose points out that the poor guy cannot beat her at anything. He asks her how it is possible that she is a resident of Kant more than he is himself, and she replies that she doesn't know how he does it. The girl reports that she was worried someone would notice, but Lyanka didn't seem to understand until she mentioned a law that only applies if both parties are from Kant. She says she doesn't care if they find out, because she had nothing to do with what happened, so she can say they are wrong. Suddenly, Edgar says he has one more question, but it is quite personal. She asks him to ask, after which he tells her that only afterwards will he see what to do next. She suddenly wonders what kind of relationship the girl has with Seonian. Anne Rose tells him she has a debt with him that she is now paying off, and he suddenly says that she understands what he means. She asks for his forgiveness, thereby seeming to reject him. Edgar says everything is fine, and he expected such a reaction. He asks her not to make that expression because it breaks his heart. The boy blushes slightly and looks intently at the woman sitting opposite. He says he asked because he wanted to tell her that he had other options. The girl says not everyone has another option, and some cannot even dream of it. After which she says she already died once, and that she is a different person now, so she no longer dreams of anything. Anne Rose reveals that she is driven by the terms of her agreement with Seonian. Edgar excitedly asks if this is her answer. She says she makes no exceptions, not even for him. The boy notices that she is very sincere, even when rejecting a man. He asks her to remember that as long as people breathe and move, the future can change. Edgar moves closely to her and tells her that this is the future he wants, so he will do everything possible to make it happen. Suddenly, a man's voice is heard from behind him, asking why the guy isn't leaving. Seonian, who just arrived, recounts that he told him to take care of the girl, but didn't say he could touch her. Edgar asks for forgiveness and says that this is his property. He tells him that he definitely has the right to express his feelings for the girl he likes. And he tells him that this girl is his agent. Bodwing asks him if he means something like she is a girl first and not an agent. He then reveals that he finds his words offensive. His Highness says that if he wants to play romance, then he should go to the port and look for someone else. Edgar asks how he can say that, after which he says he didn't think he was capable of such a noble feeling, but that he still shouldn't say that. Seonian says that by confessing his noble feelings to a girl, he worries her and her heart beats faster, and then asks her if she is causing a scene and asks her not to return to her homeland. He tells her not to be fooled, because he was the one who created Anne Rose Victoire. The boy says that her accent, personality, clothing, hair, and even eyelashes were all created by him, and that he has no right to claim rights over her. His Highness takes the girl's hand and asks how he dares to do something like that in front of him. Suddenly, the boy turns to the girl, who has been silent this whole time. He asks her if she wants to forget about her revenge and start a new life. Anne Rose jumps up and says she doesn't want this, and that she hasn't forgotten their deal for even a minute. Seonian, hearing this, tells a boy nearby that he didn't ruin his noble relationship. Edgar, looking sadly at the girl he likes, asks her if she is serious. The girl asks for forgiveness and says that otherwise she would have no reason to live. Rangero dismisses Botbin, and those remaining in the room are left alone. Seonian grabs Anne Rose and sits her on his lap, saying he knows very well that she feels nothing for him. He reports that he can see her helpless gaze and discomfort even from behind the door. The boy asks if she meant then that she makes no exceptions. He says he is glad the girl fully understands her situation. Suddenly, the boy says that something is wrong, and for some reason she seems dirty to him. She excitedly asks if something is causing him trouble. He says he knows she is faithful to him and hopes there is more than loyalty between them. After which he says that if she needs to love someone, let it be him. Anne Rose remembers that in Northland, she will have to pretend to be his lover, and then asks him if he is doing this so that she gets used to it in advance. Suddenly, the boy says that the smartest thing would be for her to become one. The girl suddenly reveals that she does not want to have those feelings for him. She says they shouldn't even hug, and he asks her what will happen if he allows it. Victoire really didn't know if she was capable of loving again. She knew that His Highness was not the same as her last husband. However, if she had to face betrayal again, she couldn't bear it. The girl was afraid of the love the boy wanted to give her. She tells him that he doesn't have to tie himself to her this way because she made an oath, and she would never betray him. Anne Rose removes his hand from her shoulder and says she needs some time. She says she cannot give him an answer now. The boy asks her not to make him wait too long and takes her hand. He kisses her and tells her he doesn't have the patience of a gentleman. The girl sitting opposite suddenly asks him what he was thinking about so much. She asks if everything is all right, and Anne Rose says she has been busy lately. Lyanka reports that she was very touched that she went shopping with her despite her busy schedule. Victoire asks her if she will leave Kant as soon as she buys gifts. The girl admits that she really wants to find someone very important to her. Anne Rose asks with interest if she could tell her about this man. Snow Witter reports that it is only a member of her family and no one else. She admits that she really doesn't know if the man considers her part of his brotherhood, but she thinks she can call him that. Lyanka says she is looking for her older half-sister.